Can anyone tell me what this story from the week's news is in emoji?
There was a couple of guys who wanted to celebrate getting married together, and they wanted a cake, and this was in Northern Ireland, I believe, and the catering firm were very angry. They said you couldn't do this, but there's a court case and they have to do it because they have to be open to anybody that wants a cake sort of made, so they can't sort of say you can't have your cake.
That's correct. Let's have a look at a picture of the cake. Beautiful.
This judgment is probably going to be reviewed. It is the equivalent of going into a Muslim-owned cake shop and saying, I'd like you to have a face of the Prophet on the cake. You're open for business, make me the cake. Otherwise, it's against the law. So this is creating quite a difficult area. It's freedom of expression versus freedom of religion, which, again, is difficult to explain in emojis.
So why Bert and Ernie?
Well, I hate to tell you, Frank. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but they're together.
Yeah, it's that kind of talk that ruins people's careers. Do you know that Sesame Street have issued an official statement on this incident? Absolutely true.
Bert and Ernie are not officially gay.
They've said Bert and Ernie are best friends. They are not gay, they are not straight, they are poppets. They added, they do not exist below the waist.
What?
Yeah. God, I feel their pain. A judge in Belfast has ruled that a Christian-run bakery was wrong to refuse an order for a cake with the slogan, support gay marriage. The Christian bakery specialises in cakes and so bakes only 5 loaves of bread a day. But thanks to a joint promotion with the fishmonger next door, they still have 5,000 happy customers. After winning the case, cake lover and gay activist Gary Lee said he'd be celebrating tonight with a candle in his brownie.
Yes, this is the news that a number of female mayors has for the first time overtaken the number of mayors called Andy. So, what did nobody see coming?
Well, everybody saw a Tory rout coming, and it was indeed a Tory rout. They lost 500 councillors, they lost the West Midlands mayoralty, they lost the Blackpool South by-election, and they lost their passion for life, Bill.
And at the end of the evening, the Lib Dems had won more councillors than the Tories. Now, that's bad.
And they had a sort of defection as well, didn't they? Yeah.
They did.
Natalie Elphicke.
Yes, let's have a look. Yeah, there she is.
At the last minute, just before Prime Minister question time, she defected. She crossed the floor, which is amusing because she's the MP for Dover and she's used to people crossing her.
And also, she was about as welcome as a surprise visit from Matt Hancock.
Well, you sound like you're speaking from experience, sir.
A lady never kisses and tells.
No.
Right, let's get on with the show, and we start with the biggest stories of the week. Ian and Henning take a look at this.
Matt Hancock literally in hot water, trying to wash his hands of it. That's an emergency flight from Turkey, possibly bringing equipment to there. They're just testing.
Yeah, there is the doc from earlier.
This is the growing criticism of the government's handling of the coronavirus crisis. It looks like the Prime Minister Boris Johnson's still convalescing, unable to attend important meetings. So no change there then, Ian.
No, I mean, that was the shock news at the weekend, that he'd missed 5 of these important Cobra meetings and had been too concerned with, Brexit and reshuffling the cabinet and his impending marriage. I mean, he did have a lot on in February, and so there wasn't really time to organise the country in the face of this pandemic. So, yeah, that hasn't gone so well.
No, I think, though, no one can complain because, I mean, he didn't get voted in because of his diligence. So no one can be that surprised. I mean, yeah, OK, you can say, OK, the Premiership so far has been unmitigated disaster. What did people expect?
So you're blaming the public, Henning. That's always makes you popular.
Although there was one crucial decision he was involved in back in March, which was to keep Britain out of talks with the EU to bulk buy protective gear at the beginning of the crisis. That's according to the most senior Foreign Office civil servant, Sir Simon MacDonald, who told us Commons Select Committee this was not a communication error, it was a political decision. Although later he admitted that he'd made the claim inadvertently and wrongly. So a communication error of his very own. What is going on, Emma? What's happening?
Well, it's quite an odd thing that after something goes out like that, you can make the claim inadvertently. Were you actually wrong? I don't know. It now just looks quite odd that he said with full confidence to a select committee one thing, and then afterwards it wasn't the case. But the thing that they've been very lucky about with that particular situation is no one who signed up to it on time has yet to receive a containment. So what they can now say is, well, look, it didn't make any difference anyway.
Do you not think that everybody's been just looking at old episodes of Yes Minister, in which in the first 5 minutes the civil servant says something that's clearly true, and then the minister tells him that it isn't true after all, and then he remembers that it isn't true at all? And I love the idea that it's, was this a political decision? We could ask him now. Was the fact that you said the opposite straight afterwards, was that a political decision? Michael Gove's performance was fantastic because he's essentially being asked, is the Prime Minister trustworthy? And Gove has spent the last couple of years telling us he isn't. That's why he ran against him. So he had to sit there and say, I can't imagine why any of this would be believed. Well, we can.
Health Secretary Matt Hancock has also been criticised for failing to provide essential equipment for NHS staff. He responded by saying, I would love to be able to wave a magic wand and have PPE fall from the sky in large quantities. Well, if they haven't locked the doors properly on that flight from Turkey, you may be in luck.
There was a thought, though, that ministers in a report this week in the Telegraph were hanging Matt Hancock out to dry, obviously unnamed ministers.
Yes, there was a big promise about testing, and we were going to have 100,000 tests a day. But so far, we haven't done that. We've been something like 18,000. Is that right, Emma?
But in the first PMQs, Dominic Raab committed to meeting that target. So, you know, it's only a few days' time. We'll find out.
Thoughts inevitably are now turning towards unlocking the lockdown. The Mail reported that the government are considering a traffic light system. Any idea how that might work, Paul?
Yes, red followed by yellow followed by green. And then repeat the process.
Yeah, and the idea is you sort of gradually ease the country back into go mode. So in the red phase, basically, shops will be allowed to open at first, and hairdressers, thank God, Ian, eh? Then... in the next amber phase, the schools might open. They're talking about May the 25th as a provisional opening date for those. And then finally, the green phase is when the pubs will open. Here it is, as the Sun's report. Pubs shut till Christmas. Oh, don't worry if you were worried about keeping up with the death toll. They've got that covered as well.
How did David Cameron vote on the high-speed rail bill's second reading?
Well, he's all for it, isn't he?
He didn't turn up.
Oh, he didn't turn up?
No. He didn't actually turn up.
He was on a train, it was late.
Well...
He didn't bother, even though he lives just across the road. Apparently he was having a date night, and Nick was really looking forward to it, so he... Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, is a supporter of the high-speed rail link, but how did he sensitively answer those voicing environmental concerns?
He said it's absolute bollocks. All these environmentalists, they don't care about butterflies and trees. All they care about is their house prices. Do you know what? If Boris Johnson was like a woman or a poor person, they wouldn't get away with the things that he says. But because he was, like, well-educated and posh, I think people think...
Is there a problem coming here?
No, but I think... No, but we wouldn't get away with it. But people assume that his stupidity is deliberate because he's been so well educated. He basically said that trees were stupid and that they didn't need to be saved because there are no trees in this country older than 200 years old.
Why is he so anti-tree?
He hates trees. They all hate they all think the environment is like for pussies, don't they, and girls and stuff. No, they do. It's all money. They make me sick. Oh, you lot.
Yeah.
It's the next episode of the demise of Theresa May, who's gone from being the Iron Lady to sort of flatter version, like the Ironed Lady instead.
So nothing is happening. There was a big coup. We thought we were going to get, you know, a new Prime Minister, but no.
It's a bit like a very dull, slow Attenborough, isn't it? Where the same wounded wildebeest just keeps limping across the plain. And the hyenas can't quite get organised enough to kill her off. Basically what it is now.
Yes, it's about the week of plotting and infighting in the Tory party. There was speculation this week that Theresa might demote Boris Johnson in a reshuffle. Why might that not work?
He said he won't be demoted.
That's absolutely right. According to the Telegraph, allies of Boris warned that if May tried to demote him, he would just say no. We learned more about the principal stance Boris Johnson took when he decided to back Brexit last year. What was that?
Well, he confessed to someone that he changed his mind and became a leaver just to annoy Cameron.
Yeah.
Sorry. He confessed it in an interview.
Yes, well, according to the Mail, so... Do you call that an interview?
Can we edit that bit out so people believe it?
Yeah. Well, according to a reputable paper...
Can we edit that bit out
Yeah.
as well? It was to Lord Adonis.
Lord Adonis.
Can you imagine being called Lord Adonis?
Hey.
It's quite a lot to live up to in the morning.
Lord Adonis. That's my safe word. I'm only joking. You're never safe with me.
So, to further endear themselves to the electorate, a number of MPs have been found to have done what?
Oh, they have tried to claim speeding fines on expenses, haven't they?
And
Yep.
parking tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 4 of them, and a government minister.
Presumably, these people went for the points and went for the fines because they didn't want to do speed awareness courses, didn't they? Because presumably they were available. And I heard last week's show, and you have been on a speed awareness course, have you not?
Indeed.
As have I, but I was going even slower than you. I was going 22 in a 20.
I was doing 24, Speedy Gonzales.
Yeah. Interestingly, in the speed awareness course, literally no one recognised me at all.
They said it was humiliating.
Yeah, mainly because I was disguised as Suella Braverman.
He's only handing over his WhatsApp messages from 2021, from when he changed phones. So, yes.
Is that right?
So a lot of the messages we're not going to see, and the original phone he had, he was on a boat with Rebecca Vardy. Yeah.
Ruth, it makes me think about WhatsApp messages between politicians. So, are you in a WhatsApp group with Boris Johnson?
I'm not in a WhatsApp group with Boris Johnson, but I do co-chair his Appreciation Society with Nadine Dorries.
So, have you ever WhatsApped Boris?
Yes, but in his old phone. I don't think...
What has the Prime Minister had to say about this COVID inquiry going back and forth?
I feel quite sorry for Rishi, because he's in Moldova with Zelensky and the European leaders trying to do big boy politics. And once again, he's clearing up and being asked about Boris Johnson, and he's not getting to do the Prime Minister thing at all.
And you feel sorry for him?
Well, I do, because he's like this earnest and industrious little chinchilla that works really, really hard.
Yeah.
And then there's just this big looming gorilla behind him that just takes up all of the space and all of the lights, and he just, you know, he can't get on his wheel. It's a shame.
It thought it should have an inquiry into COVID and appointed Baroness Hallett, and she said, well, can I see all the evidence? And they said no.
But it's even more complicated than that, isn't it? Because she said, can I see all the evidence, please? And the government have said no, but Boris has sort of said, yes, I will hand over all my evidence. And he's handed it over to the government, but the government haven't released it. And the reason he has handed all his over is because he kind of wants Rishi to hand over all of his evidence and all his messages, presumably including loads during lockdown, which went, oh, that bastard next door's having a party again.
This is the news that the deadline for
Yes.
submitting requested information to the COVID inquiry has passed, and the whole government and Boris Johnson have been arrested. So sorry, hang on. There's an alternative ending. Nothing's happened.
But also, if you have an inquiry, it tends to be up to the person chairing the inquiry what's relevant. If you say to someone who's committed a crime, is there anything relevant? They go, oh, no. Oh, no, you don't want to see any of that. You don't believe them. So if the government sets up an inquiry, it's presumably got to give over all the stuff. I think by the time this goes out, they'll have backed down. I don't think the government's going to... Are they, Baroness? They're not going to spend the run-up to the next election fighting their own inquiry.
Depending on when this airs, we'll have found out that they've gone to a judicial review.
It'll certainly be sorted out by the time this is on Dave.
Jennifer Arcuri, who is definitely not a close pole dancing friend of Boris. And definitely there is no conflict of interest at all in anything that Boris ever did with her companies, ever.
They've admitted that they obviously have been lovers. That's
No,
not...
no, they haven't admitted.
Haven't they?
No, no.
Oh,
no,
OK,
no,
a different
no.
WhatsApp group.
No, no.
Sorry, OK, no one... What I mean is no one knows, and...
He took her around some of the sites of London, apparently.
Oh, I see. It's like...
Up the gherkin.
She went on the Piers Morgan show. She was given a chance to deny it.
Yeah.
6 times she didn't deny it. She said,
Yeah.
I'm not going to weaponise this by giving an answer. Whereas she could have ended it if she'd said, no, we didn't.
But then being romantically involved in whatever capacity isn't the problem, it's the business side. So we get kind of carried away with the saucy bits.
No, but
and the
no. It's more if you are having an affair with someone and you pay them £126,000 of public money, that becomes very, very reprehensible. And if you put them on trade missions and also write letters suggesting that they get jobs which they're not qualified for, again, the fact you're having an affair with them is important. So sex, obviously, we're not interested in, but we are in this case.
Oh, I see. I see.
He's been charged with lying, hasn't he?
Yes.
With falsifying, with the big bus with the figure outside that was something like £320 billion a week goes to Europe or something like that. So
We'll have to be careful or they'll cut this out, and I don't want anyone to spoil the fun of thinking Boris is going to go to jail for life. Which, at the moment, we're just at the preliminary hearing stage about whether, when he was a public official, he was telling lies and therefore abusing his office. It should be an interesting trial. I mean, very similar to putting the Pope on trial and saying, are you a Catholic? He was sacked from then sacked from sacked by his own reprimanded.
Ian,
yes,
we're not allowed to say anything that might prejudice the case.
Well, that's absolutely fair enough, because I would like him to have a fair trial with a desirable result of him being in prison forever.
Without wishing to prejudice the outcome of the case?
No, because we mustn't do that. I'm not saying he's guilty.
Would you like to see Boris Johnson?
Let's deal with your arguments. One of them is on the side of this bus. We sent 350 million to Europe. We don't. And you know we don't. No, we don't. You know we don't.
No,
Admit that that figure is grotesquely misleading at best.
I won't.
The true figure is 161 million, correct?
No, the true figure is 350 million.
In net terms, the real figure is 161.
If you take out the abatement and the money that comes back, the UK money that comes back via Brussels, the figure is obviously lower.
Matt Lucas is so good.
What lie did Boris Johnson tell Robert Peston?
Was this the 350 million again?
Linked.
On the NHS?
Linked.
Did he say it would be
Oh,
reconsidered?
He said it was in the manifesto.
Yeah.
Did she say it at the manifesto launch?
No. Not only did he lie, but he actually cheated as well, because he looked at Peston's notes in the hope of finding out what the question was going to be, and he was caught.
I didn't know what cheating you were referring to there.
You've suddenly adopted the character of a northern housewife. Have you heard about... Well, no surprise to me. He was rinsing out his own gloves last Saturday.
We haven't talked about Labour very much, so to head off any accusations of bias...
Are you leaving now to be replaced? The next round will be hosted by Michael Portillo. Come on, we can have a train round.
When it comes to Labour's manifesto promises, how did Shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry muddy the waters?
Was this Trident?
Yep.
She said there'd be a review, and the review might include scrapping it. Was that the problem?
And do you know who contradicted her and said it was Labour's policy to keep Trident?
Shadow Defence?
The Shadow Defence Secretary, that's right. This was Nia Griffiths, the Shadow Defence Secretary. Emily is not the Shadow Defence Secretary, I am.
You're doing it again! I don't know who that man was she was in the pub on Saturday, but it wasn't her husband, I'll tell you that much. I know full well he's got a job in Peterborough.
That's the police. Someone listening in. The police have been caught trying to find journalists' sources, which everybody used to think wasn't legal. But due to something called RIPA, which is not a sort of BBC One 9 o'clock thriller. It's the Regulation of Investigative Powers Act. The police can do this. They don't even have to ask a judge. They can just go straight in and say, I want the phone records of that journalist because I want to find out who his source is. It is quite serious. And it's, you know, you don't have to feel sorry for journalists, but if they can do it to journalists, they can do it to all of you.
You're absolutely right. They're not hacking into phones, but they are allowed to get, as you say, phone records of who's phoning who.
Very, very interesting. You remember this. Some years ago, I had to give evidence for the DTI in a case called the City Slickers case. And they asked me for my phone records, and I said, I didn't keep them. They said, oh, well, what a shame. Anyway, they got them. The DTI just got them.
They got them anyway?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do you remember that was the one where, when Piers Morgan was editor of the Mirror at the time, I think?
He was, yes.
Yeah. I gave evidence against the Mirror.
Did you do it in that voice?
To protect your identity, did you appear as a 7-year-old girl? Is that the thing? Behind the screen?
You're right. It all hinges on...
Yeah, this is Paris and the tragedy there and our attempts afterwards to work out what to do about what's happened. The answer so far being we don't know. How terrified should you be? Should you leave your house at all? Ever? Again? Or perhaps you should go out just a bit and then run back inside quickly. Yeah. It is... I mean, it does strike me as one of the few things we're still allowed to do is sort of make jokes and laugh. So we might have a go at that.
Yes, what would be... But we have to talk about it, the aftermath of the events in Paris. What has been the British government's immediate response? Who have they hired?
Who have they hired?
They've hired 2,000-something.
SAS.
Spies.
Oh, spies.
Should
we know that?
1900 extras.
Do you know what that'll cost?
About £2 billion, I think.
And £2 billion for the SAS, and another £2 billion for cyber security. Where's this money suddenly come from?
Back of the sofa in the Chancellor's office.
It comes from the magnificent management of the economy that the government has done that meets the essential requirements of the safety of the nation.
I knew there'd be some comedy tonight.
So where did David Cameron decide to start pumping himself up? Where did this happen? Yes. I mean, geographically, where?
Was it in the Ghoul area?
He was visiting the Institute of Chartered Accountants.
Oh, yes, I see.
Oh, that's a really pumped-up kind of place.
Exactly right. Yeah, do you want to have a little look at this?
Yeah. And if I'm getting lively about it, it's because I feel bloody lively about it. And if you think I'm going to roll over in the next 10 days and let Ed Miliband and Alex Salmond rack that, you've got another thing coming. Taking a risk, having a punt, having a go. That pumps me up.
I think that passes for hysteria amongst the accountants.
Yeah. As well as being bloody lively and pumped up, what else is David Cameron going to do?
He's not going to put up taxes.
He's not going to put up taxes.
It's more than that,
But how is he going to ensure
he's
that
going
he
to
does?
pass
By an
a
act
law
of Parliament.
to stop people like himself putting up taxes. It's the most pathetic gesture I've ever seen. Saying, look, I can't be trusted not to just whack up income tax as soon as I get in, so I'm going to pass a law to stop me. Income tax, VAT and national
insurance, yeah.
You know, in any government that comes in, historically, the first thing they do is they put up taxes, because they have to. And it's the only year you can do it where you're not worried about the election. So taxes will go up. He'll have to find some other ones. Or break the law and be arrested. Or maybe he knows he's not getting in anyway. Oh, the Kent police.
George Osborne was very good on this in 2009 when because Brown was talking about passing legislation.
Yeah, Gordon Brown outlawed child poverty.
Yeah.
Gone. Thank God for that. Don't have to worry about that anymore. It's against the law. No, it's finished.
The low point of the media coverage this week, I think, was the analysis of Samantha Cameron's feet. in various newspapers where there was a shot of her with her shoes off, and there were big close-ups, and all the experts were coming in to describe.
There's thought there was a slight yellowing of the toenails.
Definitely a yellowing, and
could have been
how
caused...
high heels were damaging her feet.
Was it in the Daily Mail? Was it saying Labour poisons Sam's feet?
Which football team does David Cameron support?
Aston Villa.
Well, he doesn't really know, does he? And he claimed to be an Aston Villa supporter, but then he said this in a speech.
Where you can support Man United, the Windies and Team GB all at the same time. Of course, I'd rather you supported West Ham.
He seemed to realise he'd said the wrong thing.
How did he explain his mistake?
I don't support West Ham or Aston Villa. I'm no interested in football. We played rugger where I come from. But a lot of people watch football, so I pretended to have an interest in it in order to gain their votes.
Paul and James, take a look at this.
Yes. OK, there's clearly an animated rocket taking off. Ah, yes, this is Rocket Man. I think this is a Republic serial called Revenge of the Rocket Men.
No, that's the man that Donald Trump thinks is the leader of North Korea.
Ah, Little Rocket Man.
Little Rocket Man.
It's about transport, flying. There's
yes.
A guy that claims you're going to be taking people from London to New York in half an hour, something like up into space. Yeah, so he's a Rocket Man. So, yeah, it's essentially you're going to be able to get from New York to London and back in half an hour, although there's no reason why you wouldn't want to do it necessarily. But it's one of those stories, it's in 5 years' time it's going to happen, in 5 years' time. It's always in 5 years' time.
Apart from this occasion, where it's 7 years' time.
Oh, 7 years' time.
This is Elon Musk. He's the billionaire inventor.
Elon Musk?
Elon Musk. That's what I'm wearing at the moment. And it's his new space rocket travel service, operational, he reckons, within 7 years.
Yes.
Do you know what the rocket is called?
Big effing rocket.
BFR,
BFR,
which stands
yes.
literally for the big fucking rocket.
How big's the milk bottle it's going into?
Is it actually what he called it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the BFR.
So it's not the big friendly rocket.
You mustn't go on Instagram. You're not ready, Ian.
Look, this is how it's going to work. It's amazing how every country looks like North Korea when it's got that diagram. But what are Elon Musk's plans for this rocket?
He said he wants humans, he wants us to be a multi-planet species.
Yes.
So he wants to set up sort of stuff in Mars. He basically knows how to get us there, but he doesn't know how to sort of keep us alive.
How did he suggest Mars might be warmed up quickly?
Pull it nearer to the sun?
Explode a thermonuclear device at each pole.
He's a Bond villain. He's even got the name. This is ridiculous. We're falling for it. It'll be too late when we're colonising the moon. His evil plan will have come to fruition.
But even before the Mars thing, it's getting around the globe.
Yes.
He thinks we could pop to Australia for the day, which is good, because the only thing that stopped me going till now is the thought of not being back in time for Neighbours.
I don't think it bodes well for our planet for us to have a plan B. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to save... I don't think we put enough effort into saving our planet if we know we've got a backup. A bit like trying to save a marriage whilst going on Tinder. I don't think we should have any sort of place else to go.
Then.
And how bad would Earth have to be for us to want to live on Mars?
To go to Australia? But, I mean, the G-force alone would probably kill most people.
Yes. That's interesting. Well, actually, because he's got other ideas. There's the Hyperloop. This is a network of tubes around the globe that can fire people from one place to another in seconds.
I mean, I'm into this guy. He sounded crazy, but I like it.
And he's building something absolutely remarkable right now. What he's building, which I think is brilliant. This could be fantastic.
Yes.
Do you know what it is? It's the world's biggest battery. BFB. There we are.
What's the battery going to be powering? The little windmill?
It's a... It's a 100
That's
megawatt...
our entire energy policy in a picture.
It's a 100 megawatt wind-charged battery that will power South Australia indefinitely. Or an iPhone for a couple of days. Elon Musk, interesting man. He has a two-pizza rule. Do you know what the two-pizza rule of Elon Musk is?
No, but I'm even liking him more.
Yeah. He said if there's a meeting that can't be fed with 2 pizzas, there are too many people in it.
Oh, nothing worse than a tight billionaire.
Which travel company won't be providing much competition for the BFR?
Monarch Airlines.
Yes, right, absolutely right, yes. Because they went bust. Why?
They went bust, they ran out of planes.
Yeah.
The exchange rate did for them. But
Yeah.
they did go to a lot of places that people don't really want to go to anymore.
This is true. Sharm el-Sheikh is not
It's not a big draw now, is it?
No. Which airline has had a record number of bookings this year?
Ryanair?
Yes. Ryanair.
Too many bookings.
Despite all the cancellations due to shortage of pilots, Monarch have a few spare. Ryanair's bookings increased by 1 million in September.
Wow.
That's an amazing thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cheap flights, I suppose.
No frills.
No frills.
No pilot.
Yeah. During the mass cancellation, what did Ryanair offer some of its passengers by way of compensation?
Punch in the face.
I think I would take that over what they offered. A replacement bus service.
Now, with the attacks in Paris and everything kicking off in Syria, it's good to know that our army will be keeping us safe. Who knows what Captain Coward's been up to this week? Unfortunate name, I grant you. Anyone?
He's not a cartoon character, he's a real person.
No, it's a woman, Clapton.
Oh, right.
Captain Clapton. She's got a clap as well. Captain Claire Coward's got the clap. What a great poem that would be. She hasn't, I'm
Can
sorry,
you say that?
Claire.
I think alliteration is no defence in law.
Captain Claire Coward of the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers sent a 400-word email to junior officers complaining about their poor performance when it comes to supplying coffee and biscuits to senior commanders. She wrote, "Ensure that there is always enough coffee, never run out and don't scrimp on biscuits. A selection of the following always goes down well: Jaffa cakes, chopped malted milks, chopped hobnobs or digestives. And as a treat, party rings or pink
It's a sign of pomposity, really, isn't it?
It
to devote
is.
that much effort to
It is,
the
really.
pink wafers.
I think the pink wafer. I've never liked the pink wafer.
No.
I think it's. I think it's misleading.
Yeah.
And
What
it's-
type of biscuit is that?
Yeah, it's just all pink wafer. There's nothing else. And if you don't like pink wafer, that's it. I mean, with a Jaffa cake, there's some sort of surprise in the middle. Well, not a surprise when you have more than one, but. Does anyone here actually enjoy eating pink wafers? See, nobody. Well, you'd eat anything that's got a cake on it, wouldn't you?
Anything that's got a cake on it or a cape on it.
Yeah.
A cape.
Cape.
I'd eat Batman.
Would you?
It's said that the CIA made 638 attempts to kill Castro. So, let's play a game of assassination attempt, true or false.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
I'll name an assassination attempt.
Yeah.
You buzz in to say if it's true or false.
Well, how can we buzz true or false?
You buzz if you think you know the answer, and then you say whether you think it's true or false.
OK, yeah, that's good. That'll work.
Poisoned shoe polish, true or false?
True.
Yes.
But I buzzed.
That's where the system breaks down.
Yeah. Shoe polish laced with thallium sulfate was supposed to make his hair and beard fall out, leading to a loss of popularity among the people, which they believed was due to his hairiness, and would then depose him.
Unless he had access to a wig.
This is the next assassination attempt. The CIA persuaded Castro's friend to hit him over the head with a big book.
No. False.
Yes, correct.
Absolutely false.
OK, next one. We can do better.
Go on, then.
Shrinking spectacles that would gradually tighten their grip around Castro's head until his eyes popped out. You've buzzed, have you?
True. It's false.
No,
It's false.
Next one. Toilet paper that would catch fire from the friction when wiped against human skin.
That's one of my worst nightmares, that.
You're going to change brands.
Paul, is it true or false?
Definitely false.
Yes. And finally, poisoned wetsuit.
True.
Yes.
They lined his suit with something because he liked scuba diving. That was his thing, cigars and suits. And they also put something in a shell. Didn't they put a fake bomb in a shell at the bottom of the sea or something?
They did.
He was going to go down to and... Yeah, I said,
And they painted
Sounds
it
like a
pretty
bad
colours.
episode of
Yeah.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
There's no such thing.
Yeah. I like the idea of a virtual conference, though, with virtual policies and virtually no one there and virtually no ideas.
Now, why are you looking at me? I was going to say, this
You're
is...
the only one of us who I'm guessing would be interested in this.
The thing about the conference, they're showing the wrong rooms, because the room that is packed at party conference is the main hotel bar at all times of the day and night. Sometimes
What,
even...
including this year?
Well, no, not this year. Not this year. That is very true.
But this year, they had to go online, and it didn't work.
Depends what you mean by work, Paul, in the sense of, did the speeches get delivered?
Well, Ian, for a
Did we
start.
Time now for the odd one out round. Just one between you this week. Your four are CEO Lizette Ocampo, the serpent in the Garden of Eden, Donald Trump's former doctor, and the evil queen.
Buzz, 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 buzz,
Ian.
buzz.
Ian seems to be attacked by a swarm of bees.
This is about people smuggling something into a plant. So the serpent is disguised in the Garden of Eden. The Disney Queen is going to poison Snow White with an apple. Trump's doctor famously said Trump's diet was so bad he had to put vegetables inside each other to try and make Trump's diet better. I mean, literally smuggling a vegetable into the White House, which had been done before, but only during an election. And this woman, who I think I don't know anything about.
She was doing a Zoom meeting, I think, last week, and accidentally put on the filters that made her look like a potato. And then she couldn't turn it off.
So she's the odd one out.
Is the correct answer. They've all tricked someone into eating fruit and vegetables except for Lizette Ocampo, who turned herself into a potato using computer trickery. Lizette went viral last week after using the filter setting on her webcam to turn herself into a potato during an online work meeting. She couldn't turn the filter off and had to spend the whole meeting looking like this. The serpent in the Garden of Eden famously tricked Adam and Eve into eating forbidden fruit, but there's a detail in that story people commonly get wrong. Luckily, we have a theology expert with us tonight. Paul, what's the deal here?
Yeah. I've no idea. I thought the odd one out was that the Disney Queen had a tree growing out of her head. Yes, the question... there we are.
I think I know this one. It doesn't say it was an apple. We know it's fruit, but it could be a kiwi.
Yes, it's a common misconception that the fruit Adam and Eve took was an apple. The book of Genesis only specifies that it was fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The misunderstanding over the apple in the Garden of Eden came about apparently as a result of a Latin pun. Oh. It's because the Latin for apple is malum, while the Latin for evil is malum. There you go.
I'm a little bit distracted because my wine delivery's just arrived.
Wine delivery?
Yeah, it's essential. This is essential goods.
How much have you stockpiled?
Well, it goes lovely with beetroot.
Do you want to go and get them?
No, it's fine. You'll have to go away. I'm on the telly. Leave the wine in the cupboard. Leave the wine in the cupboard. Sorted. Sorry.
It was recently revealed that former White House physician Dr. Ronnie Jackson used to trick Donald Trump into eating vegetables. According to the Daily Mail, he was so concerned about Trump's diet, Jackson took to hiding cauliflower in the president's mashed potato. While Sky News revealed that Jackson had also ordered Trump's staff to make ice cream less accessible, presumably by hiding it behind a book. After a year spent trying to get Trump to lose weight, Dr. Ronnie Jackson resigned to run for Congress. He said he didn't call in any favours from Trump as he had so much on his plate. In the book of Genesis, a serpent tricks Eve into eating some forbidden fruit. Not sure where Adam was at the time, busy burying all the fake dinosaur skeletons, I'd imagine. The evil queen tried to trick Snow White into eating a poisoned apple. Snow White lived with 7 dwarfs: Happy, Grumpy, Bashful, Sleepy, Dopey, Sneezy, and Doc. The last 6 stages of coronavirus and the person you see at the end.
Anyone can lose the bit of paper. I mean, if you're a vicar, everyone always expects you to be able to quote chapter and verse from the Bible, but you don't hold the information in that way. So it's thou shalt not commit adultery, you know. Tiny detail. The gospel according to Shrek, I don't know.
No, he was announcing the childcare plans.
Yeah, it was a big one.
I mean, it was that issue. So there were 2 things to remember: how many children and how much it cost. It was poor. I mean, it's difficult to spin it any other way.
I've just heard that Theresa May's now pulled out of doing Woman's Hour herself. She's been replaced by Justine Greening. What do you think of that?
Do you know that's in the same studio as Saturday Live? So I'll be detecting
the
signs
aura
of nervousness on the seats when they go in.
That's really disgusting.
it's another edition of I Didn't Know a Vicar Would Say That.
Do you usually sniff the seats?
This is the exciting news that the election campaign is nearly over. Theresa May warned that when it came to the EU, Jeremy Corbyn could find himself alone and naked in the negotiating chamber, something only achieved once before by a rat-arse Nigel Farage. During her interview with Jeremy Paxman, Theresa May insisted that what's needed to negotiate a successful Brexit is a bloody difficult woman. Luckily, that's exactly what Germany has got. After Theresa May missed the debate, the Mirror referred to the absent Prime Minister as Chicken Theresa May. You can order Chicken Theresa May in a restaurant near me. It's thin-skinned, boneless and refuses to be grilled.
Who has had to go?
Is this the Scottish Health Minister who was seen flouting her own rules about staying close to home to save the NHS? And not once, but twice was caught at her second home in Fife when she lives in Edinburgh, and it's a good hour's drive, even in light traffic. So she had to step down. Her and the New Zealand Health Secretary, he was also caught doing the same thing.
Exactly, and it's a much longer journey for him to get to Fife.
Much longer, even
Much
in
longer.
light traffic.
Exactly. He had to swim 10,000 miles, apparently, and the last 1,000 miles being the most difficult because they were over land.
It's the fact that both of them didn't just do it once. They got caught the first time, and the Scottish medical officer got caught by the police, but then just did it again. And he thought that's pretty bold. And the New Zealand guy was caught going to the beach, so he thought, oh, all right, I'll go for a very long bike ride and I'll take my car off first. It's the message. It's very odd when the message doesn't go in, even though you're delivering it.
Yep, he called himself an idiot for going out mountain biking in defiance of his own lockdown measures. He was spotted after he drove his bike to the mountain in a truck emblazoned with his own face. The idiot.
I found a wonderful way of ensuring social isolation, by the way. I'm teaching myself the accordion. No one has been within 500 yards of the vicarage for the past fortnight. It's going very well.
How did Matt Hancock stick his oar into football?
Oh, this was about footballers' wages, wasn't it? That footballers should give up 30% of their wages to pay for the NHS, or, support the NHS. And also perhaps individuals that work at their own clubs who are not being paid £70,000 a week. It seems to me a fairly good idea that the footballers can take a pay cut to support the other employees of the club. That wouldn't be too difficult, I would have thought. So I'm not sure what the complaint is there.
Well, Matt Hancock didn't ask other millionaires to take a pay cut, did he?
No, he didn't, no.
I think you missed the one where he asked Jacob Rees-Mogg and the other hedge fund managers to take a pay cut and give the proceeds to the NHS. That was a good speech. We enjoyed that one. A lot of Tory donors have been asked, basically, not to take any money in the next year and to give the money to the NHS. It was a great speech. A lot of people didn't hear it, but I thought it was terrific.
How has Manchester City's Kyle Walker been helping and hindering the crisis?
Didn't he get caught going out in his motor car to a party or something, or some barbecue? Anyway, he was associating with people in a way that broke every single regulation that the government recommends, and has been rightly and soundly scolded for it.
Yes, it was a little more than a party. He's been hindering social distancing by hosting, according to The Sun, a £2,000 sex party. He's been distributing cash to local sex workers, which is good, who might otherwise have been furloughed. I mean, maybe they were furloughed. I don't know what Kyle's into. What's been the good news for Jacob Rees-Mogg?
Good news for Jacob. It's an opportunity, the global recession following the pandemic. There's nothing like following the Four Horsemen with some handy investor tips. And I think Jacob's firm has said there's money to be made in that there bug. And and he's advising people how they can do it.
The investment fund he set up and still owns 15% of, Somerset Capital Management, have issued a statement saying that the current crisis is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for supernormal returns.
Super spreading the money.
What's supernormal? Isn't supernormal? You'd either have super returns or normal returns. What's a supernormal return? One would rather expect the honourable member to be more precise in his use of language.
This was another week of lockdown, which included the Queen raising morale. According to The Times, Her Majesty and Prince Philip are in isolation in Windsor with a skeleton staff. Well, that's one way of making sure the staff can't catch it. According to The Sun, professional footballer Kyle Walker broke lockdown to have a £2,000 orgy with 2 hookers at his flat. See, if he'd done it in the park, it would have counted as exercise.
Chris, how much do you blame Corbyn for the referendum result? You even thought Corbyn voted Leave, didn't you?
I think a lot of the arguments that Jeremy put helped the Leave campaign.
Do you still think he will go down in history as the man who broke the Labour Party, as you said?
Well, everything's to... The Labour Party's got to be mended, that's the truth. And I don't like Mrs May and the way she's leading the country, so I hope that Labour can pull itself together.
That's definitely not a straight answer to a
That was about as skew-if an answer as I could possibly give.
Oh, Jeremy's in! I think people know you think Jeremy Corbyn's an idiot. I mean, you've said it so many times. Why stop now?
But there's plenty of people who move in and out of the shadow cabinet, and they've said even worse things than Chris has. So don't try and restrict his future career.
I'm sorry.
Just by trying to get him to, confirm what he's already said many times is pretty underhand. Leave him alone.
I'm a bit worried that Ian Hislop is supporting me. And,
I'm not.
Which member of the government's frontline team has been declared an icon of the current crisis by the chief curator of the National Portrait Gallery?
Oh, is it Whitty?
It's Whitty, Chief Medical Officer Professor Chris Whitty. A variety of artists have been inspired by the pasty-faced panjandrum and his slightly psychotic eyes. Would you like to see some of the artwork?
Oh, yeah.
Bit harsh.
Yeah, come on. Here's a rather nice sculpture by Cornish artist Penny Lally.
Ooh.
And then this rather alarming face by artist Wilfred Wood.
Oh! Oh!
Yeah, it's rather evocative of 10 Rillington Place, that last one. But who won't Chris Whitty be able to chat to in SAGE meetings from now on?
Elvis Presley.
Yes, you're right. He's no longer attending them.
He's left the building.
Neil Ferguson.
Yes. What did he do?
He had a lady caller.
This is a first-rate tabloid story of the type that the crisis hasn't had at all. It's been incredibly boring to date with graphs and figures. And now, at last, there's a sex scandal in the middle, so everyone is absolutely thrilled. And the man they called Professor Lockdown has now become Professor Trousers Down, which really is a way to make the whole of Fleet Street happy. And not even, I blame the tabloids, it was by the Telegraph. Bit of a shock, isn't it, Aisha?
I mean, who would have thought that a Boris Johnson supporting paper might want to distract with a front page when we've got the worst death count in Europe? Who would imagine? In a way, this sort of sex scandal, it's so on brand for a Boris Johnson government. It's just like so perfect. And I bet the Prime Minister is breathing a sigh of relief thinking, God, thank God, I'm not the one involved in a scandal involving like my groin. Like he's probably just going, thank God it's not me this time.
The funny thing about this story is literally... on the days he is telling people to stay at home, he is getting a visit from his married lover. He's telling people to social distance and yet not doing it himself to a woman who has 2 children and she's got a husband, and it just couldn't be more opposite. So now he's stepped back. I mean,
Are we sure that they didn't maintain social distancing? Perhaps they communicated through the letterbox.
Professor Neil Ferguson broke his own rules on lockdown to share a tryst with his 38-year-old married lover, Antonia Stats. He does love stats.
She said on a podcast before this all came out, she said, the problem with lockdown is it's a real challenge to the relationship between my husband and I, but not quite in the way that he thought.
Sorry?
What's gone wrong? What did I do wrong?
No, nothing. I think
nothing.
No, they're admitting it.
Are we
It's
moving
made
on?
up.
No, it's just...
What, today?
Yeah.
Well, extraordinarily, over the last 5 minutes, Chucker has actually withdrawn his candidacy from the Labour leadership.
This has got to be the most powerful programme on television. We haven't even gone out. At the moment, we're appearing in front of 300 people. That's enough to make a man withdraw his candidacy.
Oh, God.
Bad news, they've just shown your video on Have I Got News for You. I resign! I'm away, I'm off.
Do we have any information why he resigned? Why he...
Yeah, Peston called him amateur. He's gone.
In the news this week, with talk of lockdown easing, some people are back in training for the morning commute.
This train terminates at West Hampstead.
You can tell that footage is fake. There's someone reading The Economist.
It's likely there'll be some government advice about the wearing of face masks. Would you like to see how the Belgian Minister for Face Masks got on when he visited a face mask factory?
Absolutely.
Let's have a look at this incredibly awkward moment.
En dan is het kwestie van je mondmasker nog goed aan te doen.
Chris, I'm sorry you didn't see that, but trust me, you could teach him a thing or two about how to put a face mask on.
For the people at home, by the way, I've had a lot of these videos just before we filmed. I had them described to me, so I've already done me laughing.
Right.
I'd also like to say as well, I'm very aware that I might not, because I can't see the camera, I've got this little earpiece in, my gaze might kind of drift. And if it makes anyone feel awkward at home, just move to your left a bit.
Typical BBC advice. Always trying to smuggle in the agenda. I can spot it.
The Rwandan scheme is proving quite expensive. It's currently projected to have a base cost of £370 million over the 5-year contract. But on top of that, there's an additional charge of £150,874 per migrant deported. Although I've looked into this and they can get £25 off that if they use a voucher code. I've managed to source this one. At the start of the week, Rishi Sunak insisted...
Who is he? Who is Rishi Sunak?
I think he's a cross between a sunbed and an anorak.
No ifs, no buts. These flights are going to Rwanda. Quite a claim. May I suggest, Prime Minister, you ensure they're ATOL protected, that you pay for it on a credit card so you have Section 75 protection, and of course, you pay it off in full.
Grieve Amendment, what's that all about?
I'm getting the impression that Ian's been trapped in the back of a black cab with some bloke. I've seen what's that all about? Go on, Ian.
It's about if Mrs May loses this vote, then will Parliament be allowed to say what happens next, or will the government be allowed to do whatever it likes, i.e. represent the withdrawal bill? And the amendment went through, and it means that Parliament will regain control over the process. But that's a problem for some people, because if Parliament has control, which is largely Remain, then will Parliament enact something that is against the will of the people, as expressed in the plebiscite? You're with me.
Which Terminal Leaf Road do you want? Which one is it?
Sticking with football, what extreme lengths has this man gone to ensure his son supports his team, Millwall?
Oh, well, he's one of these things where he's named him after every sort of player in the Millwall team.
Well, yeah, not quite every player. It is along those lines. He's named him Bermondsey Millwall Den Bloomfield. And his nickname is Poor Little
The joke's on him, because Bloomfield Road is Blackpool's home ground, so...
I bet he's laughing on the other side of his face.
Unlucky.
I saw that one quite early. What an idiot. Luton Field. I was on London Bridge once, and there were about 50 Millwall fans on the other platform, and one of them saw me and shouted, "Oi, Islop!" And they all started running up the bridge to come over to the other side. I thought I was going to die. I had the devils of fire here, angels here.
What did you do? Solpadine?
Oh.
Sorry, I'm going to stop doing it. But what did you do? Did you
I
leg
ran
it?
really fast.
Did you get away?
Yeah.
Lucky you had your Nikes on.
Yeah.
How did Mike Bloomfield convince his wife Kelly to go along with the name?
Rohypnol.
Did he not tell her they were Millwall related?
Yes, he didn't ask her, actually. According to the Metro, when Kelly was taking a nap, shortly after returning home from the hospital, Mike snuck off to register his new son's name. She was pretty angry at first, but has since come round to the name, saying, "It's growing on me. I think he looks a bit like a Bermondsey."
David Cameron was kind of the main act. What did you make of his speech?
Well, I mean, again, he's quite competent. He doesn't mess up the autocue. He got some applause. He did some stuff in the middle. He quoted Kipling, the poet, not the cake maker.
Don't patronise me! To be fair, I always thought it was pronounced Kipling.
It's National Poetry Day today, isn't it?
Is it?
I think it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is.
Well, not tomorrow, obviously, when we're showing, so that ruins that.
This isn't live!
It's barely breathing.
How did you feel about him having a go at your friend Jeremy Corbyn, Diane?
Well, it's certainly not the kinder, gentler.
He did say in his speech of Jeremy Corbyn, he said, "My friends, we cannot let that man inflict his security-threatening, terrorist-sympathising, Britain-hating ideology on the country we love." This was in reference to an interview Corbyn gave in 2011 where he said it was a tragedy bin Laden had been assassinated rather than tried in an international court. BBC News didn't mention that nuance in their coverage of Cameron's speech because they've still got a licence fee to defend.
It's David Cameron who gave an interview this week to...
He's given a lot.
He gave this one to Heat magazine.
Ah, the tough ones first.
Yes.
David Cameron's in Heat.
That's why that lamb looked so petrified.
Indeed, yeah.
He began the interview by saying, "Wow, Heat must be where it's at. When I'm interviewed by the BBC, there's only one person. You've got a whole film crew."
But they make television programmes, do they, Heat?
Well,
it's a magazine, isn't it?
Yeah, but they make everything. There's not a magazine that doesn't have some online...
It's multi-platform.
Multi-platform, it's 360.
They do the lot. 360.
360 commissioning.
360 digital.
Yeah.
Private Eye, I think, has just hired a town crawler, haven't you?
It's the row over legalising gay marriage, which threatens to rend the Tory party asunder. So who's behind it?
That's quite a question with those Tory backbenchers.
Ignoring the answer would fill other lesser shows, I would say... I don't know. Who is?
It's Cameron Clegg.
Cameron Clegg.
And,
Cameron Clegg, a gay married couple.
Yes. And what is the Tory MP Peter Bone's big problem?
His name.
He's against it.
Yes. It's also that he's protesting that neither the Tories, Labour or the Lib Dems even mentioned legalising gay marriage in their manifestos.
I know it's childish,
yes,
but every time David Cameron says on gay marriage, he says he's got a mandate. It makes me laugh.
So what was the compromise position the government have worked out?
You can't ask these questions.
They can get married in church, but they have to keep the lights off so people can't see them.
The churches that don't want to do it don't have to. That's the compromise.
Yeah.
And it seems they've come up with a solution that pleases no one.
Yeah. They've also changed the Equality Act, so you can't sue a vicar for not marrying a gay couple.
Can't sue a vicar, that's a great phrase, isn't it? You can imagine vicars running around getting away. Oh, can't sue a vicar! Can't sue a vicar!
Do you always act them as camp, or...?
I've got 4 or 5 vicars in my repertoire, Ian. One of whom is unbelievably butch.
Meanwhile, the How has Labour activist David Lewis managed to get on a women-only shortlist for the job of local Basingstoke Labour Party women's officer.
Oh. Did he put a dress on? Did he make himself up as a woman? And took a photograph?
Well, what he did was he applied under party rules which allow candidates to apply if they self-identify as a woman.
Oh, yeah, so he said he identifies as a woman 1 day a week, didn't he?
On Wednesdays between 6:50 and midnight.
and let me guess, is that when he gets everything done?
Yeah, it's the news that Donald Trump is now a convicted felon.
Yeah, I just said that.
You didn't say how the Daily Star said it. They've got away with words. Orange man baby is guilty on all counts.
Did anyone see that thing when he said, I've got 34 charges? 34. No president has had that many. To be clear, it's not a good thing, is it, being charged?
Do you think he's going to jail, Jack?
He possibly could. I know that if he does, he will be permitted a security brief. He'll have what's known as a ring of steel, which he'll need in prison, I imagine. You know, in all the films, when the new person comes into the prison, you get all the other prisoners at their bars going, new meat, fresh meat. I just can't, they all come together,
Isn't there a thing they do every year with the president on Thanksgiving Day? He has to sort of like pardon a turkey. Yeah. Wouldn't that be funny if he had to do that from his prison cell? You're free!
34 counts of fraud. He could get 4 years in prison for each count. How long could he get, Carol?
136.
Correct.
Right.
Very good, she still got it.
However, Ed Balls was remaining optimistic.
Mr. Balls, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, there's been this story going the rounds on Twitter and all the rest of it that you've been defeated. Have you heard anything about your result yet or not?
David, the ballot boxes haven't even arrived in the count. And they've got to be counted and then we'll get the results. So I think maybe you should spend less time on Twitter and more time reporting the results when they're actually declared.
Let's just see how
that's
it
the
panned
Shadow
out
Chancellor.
So good of him to explain the whole process. They get the votes in and then they count them. Well, thank you, Ed. Thank you for your insight, you little expert.
He's an economist. He's good with figures.
Should we see how it panned out for him?
Ed Balls, in the last few minutes, Shadow Chancellor, lost his seat to the Conservatives.
Is that an R?
No. No, I think
this
some
is
people
the Shadow Chancellor.
No, some people were genuinely surprised, I think. There were some people who didn't know.
I'm sorry. I thought it was a wave of empathy.
Is David Dimbleby going to call him and go, have they been counted now, Ed?
Vince Cable says what?
Goodbye!
Vince Cable says, I'm absolutely sure we're going to bounce back.
Oh, he did say that afterwards.
Doesn't make any sense, does it? You're optimistic before, then you realise you've done shit. Stop being optimistic. Do you know what I mean? It's all gone wrong.
But that's real grit.
Just stop for a minute, please.
Yeah, it's too much, isn't it?
The Miliband has resigned.
Oh, my God!
As unexpected as I am to take on the leadership of the Labour Party, and indeed the Liberal Democrats and UKIP as well, I will emerge them all together into one almighty union.
Everything we said is completely irrelevant.
So out of that 7, who's left? It's like the Magnificent
Nicola
Seven.
Sturgeon.
The 3 women are left.
Natalie
Clyde
Bennett.
Cumry.
Has she not resigned yet?
Leanne Wood.
Oh, come on.
So that's...
A lot of pressure, isn't there? A lot of pressure.
So
They've
who's
got
gone?
one seat.
They've
Give it
all
back
gone
to Caroline
all
Lucas.
the men have gone except Cameron.
Only the women have staying power.
You'll do anything for applause, won't you?
I'll do anything for a woman.
Well, the polls are all pointing to a big Conservative majority, but what might prevent several Conservative MPs from standing?
Is this the electoral fraud?
Yes.
They might be in jail.
They could be.
And technically, you're not meant to stand.
They haven't been
From
charged.
prison. No, they haven't. So let's be very, very careful. And not suggest that anyone's done anything wrong.
Although they totally did.
Don't look at me, I've been nothing to do with this. I'll come and visit you, but I'm not having anything to do with this.
Lucky 13, Conservatives may be charged with electrical fraud from...
Electrical fraud?
You've been fiddling the meters. It's the old thing. Put in the shilling tide with a bit of string and pull it out again.
Paul and James, take a look at this.
Yes. OK, there's clearly an animated rocket taking off. Yes, this is Rocket Man. I think this is a Republic serial called Revenge of the Rocket Men.
No, that's the man that Donald Trump thinks is the leader of North Korea.
Little Rocket Man.
Little Rocket Man.
It's about transport, flying. There's
yes.
a guy that claims you're going to be taking people from London to New York in half an hour, something like up into space. So he's a Rocket Man. So, yeah, it's essentially you're going to be able to get from New York to London and back in half an hour, although there's no reason why you wouldn't want to do it necessarily. But it's one of those stories, it's in 5 years' time it's going to happen, in 5 years' time. It's always in 5 years' time.
Apart from this occasion, it's 7 years' time.
Oh, 7 years' time.
This is Elon Musk. He's the billionaire inventor.
Elon Musk?
Elon Musk. That's what I'm wearing at the moment. And it's his new space rocket travel service, operational, he reckons, within 7 years.
Yes.
Do you know what the rocket is called?
Big effing rocket.
BFR, which stands literally for the big fucking rocket.
How big's the milk bottle it's going into?
Is it actually what he called it?
Yes. Yes, the BFR.
So it's not the big friendly rocket.
You mustn't go on Instagram. Not ready, Ian.
Look, this is how it's going to work. It's amazing how every country looks like North Korea when it's got that diagram. But what are Elon Musk's plans for this rocket?
He said he wants humans, he wants us to be a multi-planet species.
Yes.
So he wants to set up sort of stuff in Mars. He basically knows how to get us there, but he doesn't know how to sort of keep us alive.
How did he suggest Mars might be warmed up quickly?
Pull it nearer to the sun?
Explode a thermonuclear device at each pole.
He's a Bond villain. He's even got the name. This is ridiculous. We're falling for it. It'll be too late when we're colonising the moon. His evil plan will have come to fruition.
But even before the Mars thing, it's getting around the globe.
Yes.
He thinks we could pop to Australia for the day. Which is good, because the only thing that stopped me going till now is the thought of not being back in time for Neighbours.
I don't think it bodes well for our planet for us to have a plan B. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to save... I don't think we'll put enough effort into saving our planet if we know we've got a backup. A bit like trying to save a marriage whilst going on Tinder. I don't think we should have any sort of place else to go.
That not work, then?
And how bad would Earth have to be for us to want to live on Mars?
To go to Australia? But, I mean, the G-force alone would probably kill most people.
Yes. That's interesting. Well, that's because he's got other ideas. There's the Hyperloop. This is a network of tubes around the globe that can fire people from one place to another in seconds.
I mean, I'm into this guy. He sounded crazy, but I like it.
And he's building something absolutely remarkable right now. What he's building, which I think is brilliant. This could be fantastic.
Yes.
Do you know
What is it?
It's the world's biggest battery. BFB. There we are.
What's the battery going to be powering? The little windmill?
It's a 100
That's
megawatt...
our entire energy policy in a picture.
It's a 100 megawatt wind-charged battery that will power South Australia indefinitely. Or an iPhone for a couple of days. Elon Musk, interesting man, he has a two-pizza rule. Do you know what the two-pizza rule of Elon Musk is?
No, but I'm even liking him more.
Yeah. He said if there's a meeting that can't be fed with 2 pizzas, there are too many people in it.
Oh, nothing worse than a tight billionaire.
Which travel company won't be providing much competition for the BFR?
Monarch Airlines.
Yes, right, absolutely right, yes. Because they went bust. Why?
They went bust, they ran out of planes.
Yeah.
The exchange rate did for them. But they did go to a lot of places that people don't really want to go to anymore.
This is true. Sharm el-Sheikh is not
It's not a big draw now, is it?
No. Which airline has had a record number of bookings this year?
Ryanair?
Yes. Ryanair.
Too many bookings.
Despite all the cancellations due to shortage of pilots, Monarch have a few spare. Ryanair's bookings increased by 1 million in September.
Wow.
That's an amazing thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cheap flights, I suppose.
No frills.
No frills.
No pilot.
Yeah. During the mass cancellation, what did Ryanair offer some of its passengers by way of compensation?
Punch in the face.
I think I would take that over what they offered. A replacement bus service.
That's not going to get you Australia in a day.
This is the news that billionaire Elon Musk is planning to build a rocket known as a BFR, or Big Fucking Rocket. According to the Daily Mail, the BFR would make it feasible to pop to Australia inside an hour, which could be good news for England's cricket team, as Ben Stokes might be able to play for them on day release. It's been a turbulent week for air travel. Monarch went bust, and hundreds of thousands of Ryanair passengers faced hours of queuing and misery as their flights went ahead.
Fingers on buzzers, teams.
Goose has been travelling on the train without a season ticket. It's been travelling from Brighton to Guildford for the last 5 years, and it's not its card, it's using somebody else's.
Well, that's nearly right, but it's a duck on an aeroplane.
Oh, it's a duck on an aeroplane.
This is the news that a duck has been providing comfort to nervous flyers on a flight across America. The duck has an official title. Does anyone know what it is?
Steward Ducky McDuck.
He quacks to soothe his nervous owner and is called an emotional support duck.
This just made this up.
A much bigger source of pride to Mr. and Mrs. Duck than his poor brother Toilet. Does anyone know what an emotional support duck actually wears?
It's not even a real thing. An emotional
what's he
support
wearing?
duck.
According to the Telegraph, Daniel, the duck, was wearing little red booties.
Brilliant. Well, if I was having an anxiety attack on a plane, the sight of a duck in little red boots would not calm me at all.
Well, and also, hang on, he had a sign saying "My first flight," and a Captain America diaper to make sure he didn't go to the toilet on the floor.
Why does Captain America need to wear a diaper?
I don't know, maybe he's got IBS or something. Who knows, Paul?
It's not usually considered a superpower, is it?
I don't know, I think...
Stand back, citizen, my bowel is irritable.
So let's make the most of this, our final chance to talk about the EU.
Oh, God, if only it was the final chance to talk about
on this programme it is. Let's see it off with a quick-fire buzzer round of E-University Challenge.
I'm nervous.
Fingers on buzzers. Why are there 12 stars on the EU flag?
Is that how many times we've won the World Cup?
You have to press your button. Jason?
It's us! It's us!
What? Oh, sorry.
That's one of the things they test you when you go into university. Can you spot a light coming on?
I was looking over there. I didn't know there were lights.
It's nice in the winter months, though. What was the question? Because there was originally 12 member states.
No.
No.
There is no reason. There just are 12 arranged in a circle that apparently symbolises unity.
Yeah.
Or it may not. Fingers back on buzzers. Where is the highest toilet in Europe? Merton?
Do I have to go like this?
He wasn't at Merton. Merton, life.
Yeah. Well, it strikes me that we had a vote in the mid-70s to join the European Union, and then we had a vote 2 years ago to come out, so that's 1-1. So now we're into extra time.
Yeah. The decider's coming up.
Must be.
We don't know when, but I think it is coming.
Speaking as someone who gets extra time on exams, all that happens is you have a bit longer to sit there and go, why didn't I prepare for this? I knew it was coming.
Are you suggesting the government didn't prepare?
I'm suggesting they probably have the same kind of learning difficulties that I do.
In a rare bit of good news, the continued global lockdown has seen an increase in birds singing, and one rare specimen has re-emerged in India. Let's have a listen to its enchanting song. I've reliably been informed that they would have included that clip regardless of whether I would have been presenting or not.
It's good to see, though, that the Emu's career wasn't cut short by the death of Rod Hull.
Following the cancellation of his flight to Magaluf, one man refused to let it get in the way of his holiday plans.
How does he know it's his?
And at Burt Hall, words got around that Harry and Meghan definitely aren't coming back from LA.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I genuinely didn't know you could clap sarcastically till I saw Camilla there. As if she didn't want Charles to get better. Right, let's get on with the show. And we start with the bigger stories of the week. Ian and Maisie, take a look at this.
OK, that's Boris saying he's delighted to be back before he announces that he's got to go again because he's had a baby. That may be the baby, but who knows?
This is the 2020 Ryder Cup being held indoors.
And this is bleach. This is Trump's recipe for defeating bowl cleaning. They've dropped the E from bowl. And there he is. And there's someone who knows what they're talking about, looking incredibly embarrassed. Look at her legs. Oh, God, don't say that.
Yeah, this is the return to work of Boris Johnson on Monday, just in time to go on paternity leave on Wednesday. The first thing Boris did on his return to work was to chair a meeting of the Cobra Committee. Boris had lots of questions to ask, the first one being, where do they hold them?
I'm surprised that it's such big news about him having a baby. It's his 6th or 7th baby. I was quite disappointed they didn't announce the baby weighing in at 6 or 7 pounds.
No, they're going to do it with the name. Well, Rees Moggs called his 6th baby Sextus. So I think Boris is probably going to call this one Septimus or possibly Octopus or even Decimus, depending on your counting system.
Big decision for Boris is how to keep control of the pandemic without frustrating people desperate to get out of lockdown. Everyone agrees that things won't be the same again for a long time. What's the phrase that everyone's using, Ian?
Is this the new normal?
Yes, the new normal.
I mean, it is extraordinary. I mean, the press in this country, having spent a couple of weeks saying, why didn't we have lockdown an awful lot sooner? They're now saying, why can't we stop lockdown an awful lot sooner? But it's balancing whether we slowly, let all under 30-year-olds out and they can do what they like and the rest of us have to be locked up for a couple of years. I think that's one solution, or do it regionally.
Like when my grandparents talk about what they did during the war and all of their national service, and then ours is essentially, we just had to stay indoors and binge watch Netflix to the point where we were watching documentaries on the Panama Canal.
When was that on? That sounds terrific.
It's amazing, Ian. Honestly, it's amazing. Get involved.
Fantastic. Panama Canal, for God's sake.
The first wartime analogy was that we didn't close the pubs during the Blitz. That was the reason why we shouldn't have the lockdown, which kind of missed the point that the Germans weren't really trying to kill Londoners by infecting them in pubs. And then I heard another character saying that I think it might have been Farage, saying that we didn't have social distancing during the Blitz, and I still haven't quite worked out the logic behind that idea, as if maybe it would have helped. The bombs would have landed in between people if they'd all stayed 2 metres apart.
I love the 10 o'clock curfew, though. That's another of those things that when they instituted the curfew, they had no idea that everyone would leave the pub at the same time and hang around on the pavement all together, hundreds of people, not socially distanced, breathing. How on earth are you meant to know these things as a scientist?
But I think now Boris Johnson's coming under pressure to simplify the rules. But it's quite good because now they have the benchmark, which is they just need to ask themselves, are they simple enough for the Prime Minister to understand?
So the grind of government goes on, but who's on manoeuvres in the party?
Oh, right, the Prime Minister's neighbour, Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's quite an easy job at the moment, being Chancellor. I mean, you say, would you like an enormous amount of money? And everyone says it's not enough. You go, OK, here's some more. And then people go, that's fantastic. As chancellors go, he is extraordinarily adept.
It'd be lovely if he'd help out the live entertainment industry a little bit more, though. You know.
Yeah.
Rather than just letting it die a slow death.
Yeah, I agree.
It's no joke. Just.
Yeah. Serious comment. Yeah.
I mean, I'm grateful I'm on here, you know, but like.
And you've been promised a bed for the night, haven't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, as Chris is saying, live comedy club.
It's safer than me driving home, Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Dominic Cummings said.
Why did someone from Hounslow get accused of pinching money this week?
Because that man had the crash trader.
Yes. Navinder Singh Sarao, a British trader facing extradition to America over claims he deliberately triggered a flash crash.
He has this extraordinary lifestyle, which is so incredibly penny pinching. He's worth something like 30 million or something like that. But he always wears a sort of tracksuit, and I think when he made one big avalanche, kind of sort of had a windfall, I think all he did was go out and buy another tracksuit for £100 or something.
This is from Sports Direct. Write it down, Ian. If you're looking for a new pair of tracksuit bottoms, give the ones that you normally watch television and have worn out. You can...
Sports Direct.
SportsDirect.com.
Do they do grey and baggy?
They'll serve anybody.
They'll serve anybody. Code and policy.
They're serving their food out of bowls.
That's the word on the street.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a sit-down afterwards.
No, so afterwards, they're standing up.
Yes.
And, sorry, I'm trying not to get as animated.
Man, it's important to discuss
You're the
this.
person who's really gripped by this story.
I just can't believe you're serving food in bowls. Like, imagine you've got a glass and a clutch.
Yeah.
Where do you put your bowl under your chin and just like a trough?
Do you know what the term for this meal is?
No.
Bowl food.
Is a queen going to stand up and eat it out of a bowl?
No.
No, she'll have a footman chucking cheesy
not.
watches at her.
It might be a misprint. Prince Charles organic lentils. It could be bowel food.
In a way, all food is bowel food,
You're
you'd hope
right.
at some stage.
Yes. It's all a matter of timing, isn't it?
It is timing.
Maria Miller's resignation attracted the usual bunch of renter quotes. What we've seen is a Prime Minister who clearly is totally disconnected with how the voters in Britain feel about MPs' expenses. That was Nigel Farage. The same Nigel Farage who in 2009 revealed that as an MEP he'd claimed in expenses £2 million of taxpayers' money.
And who was it? Who was it that brought up the issue of £2 million and me and taxpayers' money? Dennis McShane.
Yeah, he's in jail, but you're not.
Yes, I had noticed that.
Good.
Yes, well, as a tax-funded MEP, Nigel Farage is an equal opportunities employer. Some of our money has gone to his wife and some to his mistress. Or have I got that wrong?
I think that is allegedly, don't you? I think that is allegedly.
We can set the record straight right now.
Yeah, I think it is. I think you ought to say allegedly, quite honestly.
Can I say, as a member of the press, I think, you know, actors really are in need of a royal charter. I mean, that sort of allegation is pretty distressing. What, is it true?
No, afraid not.
Not true at all?
Not true at all.
Any of the good bits?
There are good bits.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Right.
Well, let's have a look, shall we, at some of those revelations. Here is Nikki Sinclair, a former UKIP MEP, now representing the We Demand a Referendum party in the European Parliament. Take a close look at the reaction of the translator in the bottom left corner of the screen.
Does Mr Farage think it's a fair use of taxpayers' money, namely his secretarial allowance, not only to employ his wife Kirsten, but his former mistress Annabel Fuller? Is this a responsible use of taxpayers' money, Mr Farage?
I would just say this to you, Chairman. This is somebody who hid under the cloak of parliamentary privilege to make those comments, and when asked to repeat them publicly, refused to do so.
Quite funny, though.
David Cameron was very rude about your people, wasn't he, Nigel?
Oh, he always is.
Yes, he said...
He can't help himself.
He can't help himself. He said
No,
they were all
fruitcakes
and loonies.
And loonies, and
Yes.
worse. He said worse than that.
He did, right.
Extremists.
Extremists?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
it's time... I think it's time for a game of fruitcake or loony. OK, everyone, fingers on your buzzers. I'll show you some UKIP party members. You have to buzz in and tell me whether they're a fruitcake or a loony. Here's the first one.
I don't know who he is.
Ian.
I'm just guessing.
Yep.
Fruitcake.
I'm afraid that's the wrong answer. He's a loony. He's a would-be UKIP councillor and loony John Sullivan who wrote, regular physical exercise releases boys' tensions and thus avoided homosexuality. Which is quite right, Mr. Sullivan, and that's why you'll never see a gay man down the gym. Fingers on buzzers, here's your next one. Nigel Farage, UKIP party.
This is a bit tricky, this one, because he's the treasurer and one of our biggest donors. And I wouldn't really like to call Stuart Wheeler either. I'll have to go for fruitcake.
Is the correct answer. You got it right. Yes. This is UKIP party treasurer Stuart Wheeler and Fruitcake, who said that women had no place in the boardroom and couldn't compete with men at sports, even when they're not physically disadvantaged. He said, chess, bridge, poker, women come absolutely nowhere. I think that just has to be borne in mind. Final go, fruitcake or loony?
I don't know the chat.
No? Anyone?
I'm going to go for loony.
It's the wrong answer. It's actually a trick question. He's not a fruitcake nor a loony. He's a closet racist. At a public meeting about travellers, he said, the Romanians, they'll stick a knife in you as soon as look at you. His name is Rob Fraser.
Well, thanks for telling me.
Well, there you go. UKIP supporter.
Nice chap, buys his round.
And we start with Gary the cat has eyebrows that what?
Distract you from the fact that Gary is a ridiculous name for a cat.
I've got a cat called Colin.
Well, that doesn't mean that it's OK, does it? Are you serious? Colin?
Yeah.
So when he's out, you open the door and go, Colin! People just think you're looking for a bloke. There's no way they think Colin's a cat.
Well, the judge believed me.
Gary the cat has eyebrows that always make him look confused. Here is confused Kicker.
He's probably thinking, why the hell am I called Gary?
After the poisoning, the Russian ambassador was asked about diplomatic relations between Britain and Russia, and he said, they've become rather poisonous. I mean, he's auditioning for a Bond film now.
Why didn't they just shoot him in the head?
Sorry, what?
You know, they got... I mean...
I didn't expect that from the host of Pointless.
Well, no, why did they go to all these lengths? I mean, if they really don't care what we think.
I think it's fiercer. It's more exciting, isn't it?
I suppose, yeah. How do Russian security services contemptuously refer to the two spies?
The two spies...
The two spies, the would-be
Skripals,
assassins.
the would-be assassins.
Soon to be dead?
According to the Times, they're known as Dolce & Gabbana in Russian spy circles because of the suggestion by a TV interviewer that they appeared to be two gay men on holiday. The editor of Russia Today, Margarita Samonyan, who interviewed them, tweeted after the interview, I don't know if they're gay or not gay. They're so stylish with their beards and haircuts and tight pants. They didn't come on to me. Definitely gay then, Margarita.
He's a surprising person, George Osborne.
Yeah, he was revealing his musical tastes, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Do you know who he's a big fan of?
Oh, yeah.
NWA?
NWA,
who Ian and I are both massive fans of.
Massive fans.
What are your top 7 NWA tracks?
Make the top 6, give him a chance. And one of the members of NWA is called Dr. Doctor.
Should we be that surprised? Because...
Yes, we should.
It's just because, like, NWA and the music that they made and Straight Outta Compton all came out of a group of people who felt really disenfranchised and disengaged and abandoned by society. And is this George Osborne's way of cultivating UK hip-hop? Like, what he's been trying to do is cut off the poorest people in society, make them feel really angry, and then maybe we'll get a better class of rap music.
That's a genius scheme. In an interview with the Mail on Sunday, George Osborne revealed he's a fan of rap and has even entertained Dr. Dre at Downing Street, although he did fall out with Dr. Dre over his plans to make him work a 7-day week. During...
Just imagining Junior Dr. Dre, he's really tired.
Tired rap is actually a genre.
Is it?
No.
Goldman Sachs, they've been caught out, and the Americans are charging them with fraud. Goldman Sachs invented a bond to sell to people, which was based on subprime mortgages. So it was a pretty hopeless thing to sell to people. But they designed it to lose money, because one of their other clients was a big hedge fund manager who were betting on the bond to lose. So Goldman Sachs were selling this bond to you, saying this is terrific, and behind the back going to one of their clients, bet on this is complete rubbish. So Goldman Sachs basically proved that the entire financial collapse wasn't just an act of God or an accident, it was a fraud.
Can I just interrupt at this point?
Yeah.
Because I should make it plain, the law being as it is.
Yes.
Goldman calls the charges completely unfounded in law and fact.
What does Sachs say?
Yes. He completely
what can
agrees
you
with
do?
him.
You get caught, you get caught.
Frankly, I can't see any of this making it into the finished programme.
Are you worried about libel?
Yes. Unlike you, I haven't ever been done for it before.
I think there's very little chance of you getting any more than 2 years.
Yeah. And anyway, Jeremy, backstage you were saying what a bunch of crooks Goldman Sachs.
You could present your programme from your cell. The mission could be to walk from one end to the other in the shortest possible time.
Leeds United, the National Living Statue champions, Bob Dylan, and a policeman from Coventry.
They're footballers. Is that our entire police force? Give us a clue.
Yes.
We do know it, obviously, but we're
Obviously.
just struggling a bit.
It's about people standing still.
Ah.
Standing still. Oh, Bob stands still. That's the thing that he does when he's annoyed. Really? Yes, the silver people stand still.
Do the Leeds footballers have a goal celebration in which they freeze?
No, they stood still to let Aston Villa score.
Why? Why?
As an act of sportsmanship, which, for Leeds United, that's the
extraordinary.
first.
Is it the Coventry policeman is moving around a lot? Or, yes, he's moving around more than he should be. He's doing a bit of dancing and he should be just doing traffic duty or something.
Almost. They've all been praised for standing still, apart from a police officer from Coventry who's been criticised for jumping up and down. Why would he be jumping up and down? He's
Trying to get out of
happy.
Coventry.
He's excited.
It was the trampoline. They were on a drugs raid or something, and...
Well, it sounds like it.
He was filmed, yeah, bouncing up and down. There's no actual visual evidence of a trampoline. So maybe he's just got very springy legs. But I think he's been disciplined.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A kangaroo court.
Let's have a look.
See, there's no trampoline in that shot.
Oh, he didn't get back up after that, did he? He could be jumping on the belly of a suspect.
Why has football team Leeds United been praised for standing still?
Oh, I know this one because...
Yes! Ian, I think it's Aston Villa, isn't it?
It's quite an interesting act of
Yeah.
sportsmanship.
They allowed their opponents, Aston Villa, to kick off and score a goal uncontested, a tactic Scottish football fans are familiar with. One Leeds United player did try to stop Aston Villa scoring, Pontus Jansson. He's a cult figure there. Have you heard the song about him? No. It goes, Pontus Jansson's magic, he wears a magic hat, and if you throw a brick at him, he'll head the fucker back. That's it. That's exactly it. Here are the living statue champions. This is live footage. It's a video.
That's impressive.
Did the runner-up come as a tree?
Why did Bob Dylan stand still this week?
He does get grumpy these days. I mean, he was always grumpy, but he's got more grumpy.
Well, the singer stopped a concert this week to scold fans for continuously taking pictures and ended up having to hold a pose to make his point. Well, as part of his rant, he said, "We can either play or pose, okay?" Unfortunately, none of the above was not an option. After admonishing the public, Bob Dylan stepped backwards and found himself tripped up by a tiny speaker. Now he knows how Theresa May feels.
Now, who might be particularly delighted with the timing of the election announcement?
Paula Venables from the post office, because she was up in the inquiry and it blasted her off the front pages and she would have got an absolute shellacking.
That's right, former post office head honcho and national sweetheart, Paula Venables.
She cried 4 times for herself. It was a really disgraceful performance. And I think, yeah, it was appalling. She said things like, "I didn't know that they were prosecuting these people when I took over." And you think, that just isn't true. It's all lies. I mean, she is now in the inquiry trying to blame her colleagues, which is the entire point of the inquiry, is that she's already blamed people who didn't do it in an attempt to cover herself, and now she's doing it again.
I also just don't understand how you can come and take over an organisation where suddenly, out of nowhere, after a new computer system comes in, 1 in 12 people that work from you has got their hands in the till and you never previously noticed, even though they worked for you for 30 years before that.
And you work for the Tory party.
I know, right?
But if what is happening is that the amount of money that you claim they've stolen is returned to the post office and then you take it out as a bonus, which they did, that's straightforward theft.
I was going to call it corruption.
That's worse than that.
Is it worse than corruption?
Yeah.
This is the guys in charge of North Korea. He's disappeared, hasn't he? As hard as that to believe, looking at that picture. But he has...
Why has he?
Well, they think that he's quite overweight and he may be in poor health. This was taken shortly before he perched himself at the end of the conveyor belt with his mouth open.
This is the news that Kim Jong-un is not well, bringing back memories of his father, Kim Jong-il.
It's cheese, though.
Yes, well done.
Cheese.
It's cheese.
Yes. Kim watchers have decided he's eating too much cheese.
Yes. Well, according to the Metro, Kim has...
Ah, well, they know.
They
There's nothing like a giveaway London Free newspaper to give you the lowdown on North Korea.
North Korean correspondent.
Anyone know what kind of cheese he's particularly addicted to?
Camembert.
No.
Camembert.
Thank you very much. No, according to the Metro, yes.
Is it Korea Philly? Oh, dear, I'm terribly sorry.
Yeah. This could be a spin-off programme, you know. With a bit of luck.
He is, in fact, addicted to...
Poison cheese.
An Emmental cheese. He has an Emmental cheese addiction. In a rare display of openness, what did North Korean TV show?
His digestive tract.
They released a documentary showing Kim limping around factories.
Blimey.
I just think he's got Babybel stuck in his shoe.
Next, huge duck army. What?
Huge duck army absolutely massacres tiny duck army.
Faces massive bill.
Huge duck army patrols South African vineyard. This is a vineyard in South Africa that uses an army of 800 ducks to control pests. Next, 18-foot-long cucumber. What?
Does not bother woman with 19-foot corridor.
18-foot-long cucumber available for events. The Cucumber Growers Association.
Oh, that must be the finale for the Daffodil Festival.
Yeah. Here it is.
Is that real?
It looks a bit like a dirigible.
It's got a handle in the middle of it, look.
Yeah.
Like, it's as if they're going to pick it up there and...
break down the doors of a massive salad.
Next, bald men on high alert. What?
As seagulls target pates.
Good enough.
What?
Yes. Bald men on high alert as marauding owl attacks. It is a bird one. This is about an owl terrorising people in Devon. One bald victim of the so-called terror owl was Richard Clevedon Smith, who reluctantly agreed to recreate the incident for the local paper.
I see that in the photograph behind him, the local Beatles tribute band are restaging the cover to Abbey Road.
There's a poll this week apparently saying that 60% of people want the government to get on with Brexit.
Well, according to a company called Delta Poll, 60% of voters polled agree with the statement, I no longer care how or when we leave the EU, I just want it all over and done with.
Sort of dignitas, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
When's the appointment?
Yeah.
What is this order? What do you want? Do you want it over with, or do you want it fought out?
Open the box! Take the money!
Just glad to see divided Britain in action.
That was a second referendum.
That was it.
And the BBC's main 10 o'clock news bulletin announced a significant casualty of the coronavirus this week. What was that?
I think it's Love Island, isn't it?
Exactly.
So Love Island isn't going to go ahead this year, but I believe that if you hold your head close to the microwave, you can still burn through the same amount of brain cells.
So this is the news that the government are going to begin virus contact tracing. There are some fears that the contact tracing app could help the government to harvest our personal data. Doesn't bother me, said Eamon Holmes from the safety of his recently constructed tinfoil bungalow. On Sunday, Boris Johnson is expected to lay out a menu of options, and that could be the last menu you see until 2021. According to reports in the papers, Boris was going to be accompanied at his Sunday broadcast by Michael Gove, but they were worried that people would think, fuck me, Wilf's an ugly baby. Paul and Chris, here's yours.
OK, so Chris, what they're showing us is a tiger in the wild looking around. I think he's in the wild, and he's walking through, and there's some armed police, very heavily armed police, running towards the tiger. There was a story about a tiger that was discovered in Kent the weekend, and so the police were called by a startled onlooker, and they rushed to the scene to find that the tiger was actually a sculpture created by a woman who says it's been there for about 20 years. So everybody had a good laugh, and they took a photograph of it, and everything was all right.
Somebody saw it, obviously thought it was a real tiger, and reported it. And I think it was the same person that reported that outside the chemist, local residents were forcing money into the head of a guide dog.
I was just going to say my cat was fantastically put out. Some other famous cat in Kent hogging the news for a week. He had a hissy fit and retired to his bed hurt. So that's the last we'll hear of him. Oh, he's gone again.
Do you know in Kent, though, you're more likely to be run over by a tiger driving a white van than you are to be eaten by a tiger in a field?
So there's quite a few wildlife parks in Kent, so there's like the population of tigers in Kent is probably higher than you might imagine.
There he goes again, undoing jokes with facts.
I feel as if it's a service I can provide.
Shall we have a look at the reason that 10 armed police officers and a helicopter were dispatched to the Kent countryside? Here it is. Oh, yeah. It's good, but it's no Chris Whitty. Here's the tiger with some of his new friends.
Well, the tiger's clearly sunbathing, isn't he?
Wouldn't it be funny if while they were having their photo taken, a real tiger came out from a bush and ate them all?
It's interesting you say that, Chris, because actually there are quite a number of wildlife parks in Kent, and there's more tigers than you might imagine.
Do you know what? I've heard that before. It's
Yeah, so have I. I don't know where I've heard it from, but somewhere.
Bloody BBC repeat.
Exactly.
Do we have any idea how the tiger got there?
No, I think there's a woman, she's a sculptor, she sculpted it. She said it's been there 20 years. So I imagine that somebody went for a walk near their house where they hadn't been before, and they came across it, and there it was. But it's not a surprise, really, because I don't know if you know this, but there's a surprising number of tigers in Kent because there's a number of wildlife parks.
I think I'm getting a bit of echo on my earpiece.
In other news, who can tell me which former Tory MP
once scaled a building to break into his own office?
It was Rory.
It was Rory. Very impressive for a civilian, yeah? We know you can't say, but it's lovely to have you here. Who has been claiming they're a spy recently? Relative of the fantasist-in-chief?
Stanley Johnson.
Correct. Stanley Johnson. According to him, in the 1960s, he was recruited while studying at Oxford and giving training which included the task of blowing up the power station in Blythe on the Northumberland coast, which he did successfully. And why was Stanley Johnson only a spy for 6 months? Stanley himself told The Times, "My incompetence might have cost people their lives." It's a bit of a family trait. This is the news that MI5 want to recruit more people from diverse backgrounds. Rory Stewart has denied being a spy, but has considered going undercover. He recently told New Yorker magazine that he considered living on a council estate for 2 or 3 years to better understand British poverty. Well, you could try, Rory, but thanks to your old party, there's a 30-fucking-year waiting list. Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features a guest publication from Rory's old stomping ground, the Penrith Ramblers Group newsletter. And we start with what mocked for looking like Phil Collins?
Lewisham Town Hall. That's right, isn't it? I can tell. It's Lewisham Town Hall.
It's not right.
But then people say it all the time, it's Phil Collins. Oh, no, it's Lewisham Town Hall.
The answer is statue of baby Jesus, mocked for looking like Phil
I've
Collins.
got to see this.
Oh. This is a church in Mexico who accidentally installed this.
OK, give us a clue. Which is which?
And it's quite good, really. It's Genesis.
Yeah.
Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication Skirmish, the Living History magazine. 10.66. That's too much to pay, isn't it? Each issue should cost a £5. And we start with a common question I get asked at battle reenactments is
what side are you on? Are you my minicab driver? Weren't I married to you in Maidstone in the 1960s? Any one of the three.
I actually went to a Living History festival once. There were whole fields full of people, some Vikings and then sort of Peninsular War soldiers and Anglo-Saxon. There was a group of them, and there was just one bloke sitting on a chair, and round him were loads of women, and he said, "I'm the mead lord. Everyone here is just here to serve me mead." And I said to one of the women, "Why do you do this?" And she said, "He's got a car."
I went to a World War II reenactment. I was making a film about aspects of Ireland near Cork, and they had all the sort of gear, you know, the right uniforms, the vintage motors. And at one point, a Winston Churchill lookalike came up to me. He had the hat, he had the cigar, he had the waistcoat, he had the entire look. He looked like Winston Churchill, and he said to me, Paul, I'm a big fan of yours." It was very disturbing.
OK, well, here we are. A common question I get asked at battle reenactments is, why do you and your mates always play Germans? These are English reenactors who always take the part of the German army. Talking about the origins of the World War I reenactment group, their leader said, "We started in Belgium, so full marks for authenticity." Next, penguins in Norfolk are what?
Lost.
Related?
Demanding a penguin's vote.
Are breeding with their relatives.
Bored?
Penguins in Norfolk are too randy.
Oh.
Penguins never have any difficulty finding a mate, as they're notoriously easy to pick up. And finally, man in Hull drives car into what?
Hull.
Frenzy, Utopia, City Centre, Mrs. Watson. Mrs. Watson's dog. Alan.
Gap in the road where there are no yellow lines?
Oh, no, well, sort of to do with the road. Man in Hull drives car into large hole. This is Grant Parker from Hull, who drove his car into a massive pothole. Here he is illustrating how big the hole is. Wow. Grant said, "I thought hell had opened up," as he drove into Hull.
I sort of think that most people will vote Remain if they do it again.
No, all the polls suggest people haven't changed their minds at all.
OK. Everyone in here, if you had your time again, who would vote differently?
Well, what's that going to tell us?
I'll tell you what that is going
50% put their hands up. Well, that's conclusive.
No, what that tells us is absolutely pointless to have a second referendum, because for anyone to vote any different, they would have to admit they got it wrong the first time round. No one's going to do that.
No, people don't want to do that.
Yeah. All that talk about, oh, if there's a second referendum, there will be 80-20 in favour of Remain, not on your Nelly. No chance. It will be exactly the same outcome, because say you weren't happy with the level of immigration 2 years ago, you're not going to be happy about it now. No. So if you thought 2 years ago the country was run by unelected European Union bureaucrats, well, nothing over the past 2 years would have changed your opinion on that. Well, and if you were daft enough to fall for that 350 million quid a week for the NHS law, you're daft enough to fall for something else next time round.
And so, to round 2, the picture spin quiz. Fingers on buzzers, please, teams.
Yeah.
Yes, this is monkeys stealing things.
Baboons. They actually managed to open the window and get in and wreck the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereabouts is this?
In
Wigan.
Surbiton.
And if the picture went lower down, we could see what they were actually stealing. I can't remember what it was now. But it was like a television or a blanket or something like that.
Let's have a look. There's other pictures.
A sofa or something.
It's a teddy.
Yeah,
They kidnapped Pudsey. Children in need won't happen next year.
And they got some linen. And some more linen.
Look at that one, just stuck on the wall.
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
Left there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Can I have one for Christmas, please?
What, a thieving baboon?
Yeah.
Yeah, think of all the presents you'd get.
Yeah.
Living on my proud
They're very scary. When I went to Cape Town, a big one got in our car, so we jumped out, and we couldn't get back in the car. Just sitting in the driver's seat, messing around for ages.
How did it get in the car in the first place?
I left the door open.
And further animal news.
Yes.
What heinous crime did another animal commit a bit closer to home?
Heinous crime.
With an H.
Yeah.
Yes, heinous.
Was it?
Yes.
Right, I'll tell you. When John and Steve Rolls were caught without a tax disc, they were given a £100 fine, which was waived when they told the police that a snail ate it.
Oh.
And sent this picture in.
So good.
Yes, yes.
This is the news that a gang of baboons have been photographed burgling an apartment block in Cape Town. Of course, the good thing about baboon burglars is they may shit on your carpet, but at least they throw it out of the window afterwards.
Time now for the odd one out round. It's just one between you this week. A dog in Thailand. Scott Mann, MP, Judith Strang from Texas, and Damien Green. Yes.
Now, Scott Mann, colleague of Johnny's,
Yeah.
and I believe there was an incident where Johnny actually saved his life from drowning. So I'm guessing
Well.
that he is perhaps the odd one out in that the other three all float.
Is that right? Did you save his life?
Yeah, I mean, it's just because I thought he had my wallet, actually.
He got sacked from the Tory party, or did he resign?
Damien Green's still an MP. He was Deputy Prime Minister and then had a slight...
There was some porn found on a computer that he had access to, and the other three people featured in the film he was watching.
They've all been rescued at sea, apart from Damien Green, who had to be rescued from a river. He was thrown in as part of a student prank while studying at Oxford University. But more recently, who did Damien Green have a run-in with outside Parliament?
Yeah, so there's a set of protesters that are, like, permanently outside Parliament, so that when anyone goes on TV, they just heckle with quite amusing abuse, to be honest, some of it. But obviously some of it's not. And Damien Green came off an interview and met this chap who's dressed in a European flag and told him that in a contested field, you are by far the biggest here. No. And he was right.
Let's have a look.
Hello.
Hello, can I ask how you're feeling about the vote yesterday?
No, you can't, because you've just tried to shout over an interview I've done, like you do everyone else.
I didn't. I was singing.
You are the biggest wanker.
Where did this dog end up at sea?
Australia.
Hawaii. Same 5G company we're talking about.
Not quite. It was spotted last week by oil rig workers in Thailand, 135 miles from shore.
Wow.
Who threw that stick?
Wow.
And finally, where did Judith Strang from Texas end up in the sea?
On holiday, was it? On holiday somewhere?
Yes, she was on a tour of...
The fjords.
She was in Iceland. She sat down on some ice which had formed in the shape of a throne and was promptly carried out to sea.
How hot is her arse?
The iceberg incident happened a couple of weeks ago, after which the accident-prone granny completed her tour of Europe with a trip to Paris, where she lit a candle in Notre Dame.
Now, that really is enough about the government's bad week. Oh, no, sorry. Andy Coulson. Where did he unexpectedly find himself this week?
In the back of a cop car heading to Scotland.
Because?
Because they want to have a word.
I had absolutely no idea that you were a gangster.
Andy Coulson.
He's been arrested for perjury.
Yes.
During a trial where someone else was on trial for perjury.
Yes.
While he was actually working for the Prime Minister, which is pretty shocking. You shocked, Alistair?
I'm shocked.
You. I'm glad you're shocked, because, you know, some of the people that this government have been hanging about with, Rebecca Brooks, know her at all?
I do.
Were you shocked when she was arrested?
I've been shocked by lots of things, Ian.
He's been charged, though, not just arrested.
Yeah.
He's been charged.
He's been charged.
Which is why Ian's being so careful.
Yeah.
About Andy Coulson, if not about me.
Well, they haven't charged you yet.
Is it hot in here?
In case anyone thinks I'm being gratuitous, I know that Alistair is going to be reasonable tonight, because he told Leveson, I am robust, but I'm not a bully. So no matter what anyone says, you're going to be really reasonable.
Tonight? No.
That's good, though, to remember. Like, if your kid gets caught, like, kicking a fat kid, just go, no, he's not a bully, just robust. He's robust.
It probably seemed like a good idea when you said yes.
Farmer Ben Fletcher's sweet potato, Geminoid F, Kellogg's cornflakes, and John Prescott's office.
Yeah, I think this is about sex, basically.
That's sex?
Yeah, because Geminoid F is a sex robot. I've heard, I've been told. I read somewhere, I saw it on television, something like that. Anyway, yeah. Farmer Ben Fletcher's, he's the farmer who keeps unearthing sensuous potatoes.
Sensuous potatoes?
Sensuously shaped
Your knowledge
potatoes.
about this is disturbingly thorough.
And I think The Office is where John Prescott had sex.
Yeah. With that lampshade
temple.
With a lampshade. With a lampshade. And it was revealed that Kellogg, the originator of cornflakes, was anti-sex. Those people had cornflakes in the morning instead of having sex. Therefore, all the other three are about sex, except cornflakes. I suggest it's cornflakes.
You listen, that's amazing.
It was like watching a Scottish Columbo.
Wasn't it?
Because you went through each of the facts one by one, and I deduce. It was brilliant.
If you wait long enough in a programme, you get onto your specialist subject.
Sensual potatoes.
Dr. John Harvey Kellogg and his brother Will came up with the cornflake recipe as they believed that plainer foods helped cleanse the body and mind of erotic desires. Though there was an unfortunate misunderstanding early in the marketing process when he asked a designer to put a massive cock on the cereal packet.
Nick, here's another for you.
Oh, yes, OK, this is a clip from George Méliès's Voyage to the Moon. That's a nuclear explosion. There was some story this week about, was it during the Cold War, the Americans were debating about whether they should blow up the moon with nuclear weapons. I didn't quite see what they thought the point of that would be.
It's because Hans Blix had told them that the clangers had weapons of mass destruction. Obviously, the little boy was the bomb they dropped on Hiroshima.
Yeah.
So they were looking at something a lot bigger. It was called a fat man. Would you like to see a picture of a fat man?
Yeah.
See? This is the actual bomb. You thought we were going to show you something like this. No.
It's Eric Pickles. He's a member of the cabinet. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes, I certainly have, but I didn't realise he was that large.
What was the reason why they wanted to do this?
It was I think it was sort of posturing, because the Russians had launched Sputnik, so they wanted to make a statement and surprise the Russians by blowing up the moon. Yeah, nothing happened.
Sanity prevailed.
Yeah, because there were doubts over what effect a moon blast could have on Earth, including tidal patterns. Talking of which, floods in this country have now got serious because a celebrity has been affected. Which celebrity?
What's the initials?
PD.
Is it P. Diddy?
Paul Daniels.
Paul Daniels.
Paul Daniels.
He lives by the River Thames.
Correct.
He lives on a little island.
Yeah.
Yes. Paul Daniels said this week that he was furious with the council and that his house was currently under about 2 foot of flooding.
He's been flooded every year for years and he keeps moaning about it. Get a sandbag, for God's sake.
Weird, is it, if you live next to the Thames and then complain about flooding?
In the Thames.
It's like moving in next door to Ryan Giggs and then complaining when he bangs your wife. Like, you surely knew when you moved into the area. This is America's plan in the 1950s to blow up the moon. The plan to fire a nuclear missile at the moon was codenamed Project A119, although its purpose was later downgraded to finding a way of connecting Hartford and Stevenage. That is the actual road. Meanwhile, on Earth, the UK was again hit by widespread flooding. One of the people affected was magician Paul Daniels. He was stranded in his house. The emergency services said despite frantic efforts, they were running out of excuses not to rescue him.
And so to round 2, the jigsaw of news. Buzz when you know what it is. Paul and Jess.
That's an emu. And it's on the run in Scotland. It's been seen in Aberdeen, Perth and Dundee. It runs at about 35 miles an hour and nobody can catch it. They try to put a saddle on it. The Archbishop of Edinburgh has been lowered down on a helicopter to try and get onto its back. So essentially that's what it is.
Do you know its name?
Louis.
He's one half of a duo of emus named Bonnie and Clyde. And it's Clyde. Where did Clyde escape from?
A zoo in Edinburgh or somebody's house?
It was a petting zoo at a care home in the Scottish village of Ecclefechan. Which I think is actually what the zookeeper muttered when he found the emu was gone.
Yeah.
What's Ecclefechan renowned for?
Its inability to cage wild birds.
Tarts.
Beg your pardon?
The Ecclefechan tart is a sort of open-top mince pie which originates from Ecclefechan. Clyde is not the first emu to go on the run in Scotland recently. Would you like to see an emu running along the A82?
Yeah, is it Julian Assange, the emu?
I don't think I would, actually.
Can we have a vote on this?
Yeah, we should have a vote. Who wants to see an emu running down the road? Everybody. Everybody.
All right, quick look at the emu. Where was it going?
We know there's a coyote behind it. Where was it going? Well, I don't know, whichever way that road is. Aberdeen.
Well, it was a trick question because I didn't tell you which way along the A82 it was going. It was going away from Loch Ness towards Glasgow.
Are you auditioning some new quiz format?
This is the surprising news about an emu at a petting zoo in Scotland. The emu was spotted running down the A82 at 25 miles an hour, but was still overtaken by a local man who realised he'd left his change on the table and a little chef in the Trossachs. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Here's another one. Paul and Jess.
This is Amazon and these sort of voice recognition systems that use female voices, and some people have complained that this might be a sexist, stereotypical thing because women, as the stereotype might go, are always telling men what to do. Is it something like that? Is it that the sort of idea behind it?
I mean, the report from UNESCO says that the default female voice normalises the idea that women are subservient, docile helpers that are available at the touch of a button.
I do know, I mean, you know, with the satellite nav most people now have in their cars, when they first came out about 15 years ago, the research showed that most men didn't want to do what a man was telling them.
Mine's Snoop Doggy Dog.
Is it?
My sat-nav, yeah.
How'd you get him to do that?
He's not got a lot on, really. Yeah.
And he knows the Birmingham area really well.
He really does. I think it's a load of rubbish, people being upset about whether it's a man or a woman's voice, really.
Yeah, I don't think the worst problem of sexism in the modern era is that Siri speaks with a female voice.
No.
It's actually a male voice in this country anyway, but... what voice does your Siri have?
You've got the voice of Gladstone on yours. I'm afraid that hasn't yet been invented, sir.
And what happened this week to show that things haven't changed quite as much as they might have done?
Oh, there was a female producer who didn't take the job that she was offered because she was found that she was getting £12,000 less than a man who was doing exactly the same job.
That's right. Karen Martin, a BBC News producer, was offered the job of deputy editor for the BBC Radio newsroom, and a man was also offered it, and she was offered £12,000 less. Even though, as she said in her email explaining why she was turning it down, they were offered the same job on the same day after the same board during the same recruitment process.
Will the BBC never learn? How many times do we have to say, pay us the same as people with balls?
Thank God, Jess, that you and I are both getting 20 grand for this appearance. That's right, isn't it?
You've got other things against you that means they wouldn't pay you as We're in this together, Flower.
Tim, have you ever sort of backed the wrong horse, or...?
I make a career of backing the wrong horse, yeah. Which particular horse are you referring to?
Well, I was wondering if you're delighted to see Theresa May, you know, Prime Minister. Did you back her campaign?
Love Theresa May. Fantastic woman, making a great Prime Minister.
What I don't understand is how...
What are you laughing about? It's true.
Sorry, no,
Fantastic.
it's the best joke I've heard yet.
He's sort of...
17 points ahead in the opinion polls?
Yeah, pretty good. But if only we had Prime Minister Andrea Leadsom, who you backed.
Yeah.
The country would be completely different now.
Even better.
Do you think so?
Even better. But we've got Mother Teresa, and she is fantastic.
And this is despite...
I thought that was the whole point, that she wasn't the mother.
Ooh.
Yes. Brought up by your candidate.
Controversial.
How she came to be Prime Minister when your wonderful campaign chant for Andrea Leadsom. Let's have a look at the clip from BuzzFeed.
What do we want? Listen for the young. When do we want it? Now.
That's the way you have a demonstrations. No police, no Molotov cocktails, no need for water cannons.
Not many people.
Middle class. It was a great march on Parliament. Everybody had a very nice afternoon out.
Are you allowed to march on Parliament?
No, you're not. Apparently I committed an offence by having an unlicensed march.
That's a revolution.
Yeah.
What we're looking at. So, in a bid to make sure this never happens again, of course, Lord Strathclyde has announced he's going to do a rapid review into curbing the House of Lords' powers. I'll give you a bonus point if any of you can give me the real name of Lord Strathclyde.
Bunty.
Is it one of those bonkers long names?
Yes, he's called Thomas Galloway Dunlop Duroy de Bleaky Galbraith. Another man of the people.
Well, he's also got product placement in the middle of his name.
Yes.
You just can't trust the Tories.
Did he change his name in wet weather?
Several of the papers identified one clear supervillain in all this. Who was that?
Well, apart from the obvious one.
Who's the obvious one?
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yes. Mega-rich musical gargoyle, Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Musical gargoyle.
He flew in from New York to vote for tax credit cuts. It was his first vote in over 2 years. He's previously voted just 30 times out of a possible 1,898 in 14 years. But he did deny he had flown back specifically for the votes. Anyone know why he says he was in town?
He was here for an opening of one of his productions somewhere.
A new musical called Cuts.
Yes, he did say he was in town to watch the revival of Cats, the musical. Yeah. But surely he's seen that already. Or maybe he's just got a bad memory.
With round one is how we start, and vice versa. Ian and Ross.
There's Estelle Morris saying, I'm useless, I resign. Blair saying, I'm useless, I don't resign.
John Peel there.
Yep.
Yeah, Charles Clarke, wasn't it, who was taking over, because Morris has just gone, right, that's it. I'm off. You know, if I don't do it properly, then I'm just going to resign and that's it. And she's been taken over by a bloke who used to be a Tory jug.
Yeah. That's Charles Clarke.
Yeah, that's right.
He's taking her job over rather than taking her over.
Yeah, no, actually taking her over.
That's right.
He's going to set her up as a small shop.
Isn't this a rare case of somebody resigning for the sake of the programme? Government. Government.
Yeah.
Government. Not programme, government. I meant government, I said programme, but I should have said government.
Yeah.
Not programme, forget programme, just
It was
government.
an easy mistake to make.
Really, was it?
Yeah.
Sounded like it needed quite a lot of organisation where I was sitting. There's the phone calls, there's a knock at the door.
A lot of stamina, too.
Could I talk about Estelle Morris just briefly? Is that okay?
Yes, certainly.
I'd rather hear about the sordid details, though, if you would.
So would I,
Just a little bit, go on.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit.
If I knew what they were, I'd tell you, I promise.
That's as unconvincing as anything I've ever heard. Yes, let's talk about politics. The stream of sleaze can wait.
Yes. Paul and Gerald, you're not on Channel 5.
Eureka Johnson, Matthew Wright, who was, that's him on this show, in fact. The selection of newspapers there with the cut-out details, the things that were cut out was the name of the man behind this accusation, and Sky Television and ITN have named him, but the BBC have got a policy at the moment of not naming him, so I can't give you the answer you're looking for. It wasn't you, was it?
We are allowed to refer to him as Mr. X.
Why will the BBC not allow this man's name to be mentioned when ITV will?
Yeah. I don't know. This is a question for the lawyers. I've no idea.
I suppose it's just a bit old-fashioned, me, but I always thought if you'd been raped, you rang up the police rather than a publisher. I suppose the basic reason he's not being named is because he hasn't been proved guilty yet. There's been a jury of one so far called Ulrika. This is just more of this. It's been a week where you sit there thinking, is there anything else going on in this country apart from a bunch of Z-list celebrities having sex with each other?
Yes.
The answer depressingly seems to be no.
No, yes. Gerald, you were surprised that there was a serious discussion programme, you were saying?
Yes, and I'm still surprised.
Yes.
To be fair, I think that this is as intellectual a television programme as you will find.
How dare you! You've come along as a guest and you'd badmouth us like that?
I thought the whole point about being a guest here was either to badmouth or be badmouthed, and calling this programme an intellectual programme was as low as I could sink.
We're following Fame Academy, come on.
Apparently the winner of that's going to host this show. Did you know that? Did you know about that? Happening, apparently.
But that doesn't finish for months.
Oh no, it must be wrong then.
Yeah.
Next, nudists with attitude sees what?
Quiz show host. Get them bloody clothes off.
Is it nudists with attitude sees up in the cold weather?
It isn't. It is, in fact, the high ground. Next, I let a robot what?
Host my quiz show. And there was a significant improvement.
Is it...
Relentless. Yes.
I let
Says the voice of the people. Always at the news of the world.
I don't think they say that.
Is she a friend of yours, Angus? That's right, love. It's only another 20 minutes to go.
If you've got a friend, you're both in luck.
That strange feeling of déjà vu.
So's the rest of the country.
Operate on my knee. Before we bid them a fond good riddance, the minor irritation of our caption competition.
Prime Minister threatened by tiny comet.
Mystery sniper shoots hole in Estelle Morris.
Thank you.
TV man saying, slept with anyone interesting this week?
The last assault.
I wouldn't bet on it.
Is Mr. X just out of shot?
On which elevated note we say thank you to our panellists Ian Hislop and Ross Noble, Paul Merton and Gerald Kaufman, and I leave you with news that after persistently trying to sell household goods door to door, a Bristol man is set upon by angry housewives. Scientists uncover proof that self-hypnosis techniques carry no guarantee of success in life. And in London, a meeting breaks for 5 minutes after the mayor is informed of the death of his favourite, Newt. Good night.
How has ITV's Chris Shipp been having some fun with the election whilst presenting the news?
He's been hanging pensioners from lampposts and shooting at them with paintballs.
No, on Tuesday. No, it's not.
Well, you've not seen the footage I've seen.
On Tuesday,
yeah.
He was ridiculed for his paper management, the technique of his paper management at the end of his news bulletin.
Not shuffling, was it?
From everyone here on the Lunchtime News. Bye-bye.
And then on Wednesday, the next day, he did this.
From everyone here. Bye-bye.
Yes,
he won't last long, will he?
This is the last frantic week of election campaigning.
Yeah.
The Tories claimed that one of their advisers was punched in the face by a Labour activist, but footage quickly revealed it was entirely accidental. Good to see another one VAR's got right. Luckily for Boris Johnson, the news agenda was briefly hijacked by the erupting volcano in New Zealand, though there was a moment of panic when Dominic Cummings feared it was his underground lair. This week, Boris Johnson predicted a post-Brexit baby boom. Just what we need, said a beleaguered doctor at Leeds General Infirmary. So at the end of that round, it is 2 points each.
Right, let's get on with the show, and we start with the bigger stories of the week. Ian and Hannah, have a look at this.
It's Boris Johnson's first family photo. Are you one of mine?
Yeah, I've got to wash your hands of everything, really.
And Michael Gove there, looking for someone to blame. And finally, a metaphor there for thinking things through before you commit.
This is why we need schools to open.
I am a free, I am not man, a number, of course, a message we can all get behind.
Having effectively persuaded us to stay at home, the government is now in the position of trying to persuade us not to stay at home anymore. And this is a bit of a problem because people got very scared and then they're staying a bit scared. So things that most people think should happen, like schools opening, we've got to open schools eventually, but everyone suddenly got very scared and said, we don't want to do it now, we don't know how to do it, are we going to be safe enough? And again, there hasn't been much of a lead in terms of saying, this is what we'll do, it'll be fine. So there are lots of things we could do, But again, no one's sure about the science. But luckily, I've got a scientist on my panel, so whatever I say, even if it's rubbish, I will blame her.
Yeah, I take full responsibility. I think the thing about a lot of this is that there's a difference between the risk to yourself as an individual and the risk to your family and the risk to the country as a whole. And while there are certain things that we can probably do, we can probably risk it as a country as a whole, people slowly going back to work. That doesn't mean that the individual level risk is non-existent, and I think that's the reason why it's just this strange contradiction. You can see your boss, but you can't see your family. Your cleaner can come round your house, but your best friend can't. It's just we're in this strange limbo between the two states.
Well, it's just been so confusing from the beginning. That's why, isn't it? At the start of it, Boris Johnson was saying, "Well, we must shake hands," and then changing his mind. So you must not travel unless you're going somewhere, and must stay at home at all times when you're not out, and go to work but not travel there, so you must float, and that this will come in on Monday unless Monday falls on a Monday, and then they wonder why people are confused.
Well, that made more sense, to be honest, Mark.
Primary schools in Denmark have been open for a month. How did that go?
It actually went okay. So there was a bit of an increase in transmission initially, and then it stabilised again. So actually it looks like, so far, it hasn't had the terrifying effect that many people fear.
What is one of the more confusing aspects of I've just noticed here's a question I should have asked you earlier. What's one of the more confusing aspects of the government's Back to Normal campaign? It is I'll give you the answer. It's the planned return to school of primary-aged children on June the 1st. What did Michael Gove say about this?
You're accusing the government of being confused, and you've just given us the question after we've given you the answer.
If you won't all say things in the right order for the pieces of paper they've given me, remotely, from your flipping homes on the other side of the internet, within a few minutes on Andrew Marr, Michael Gove made 2 claims. Do you know what the first claim was?
I'm not a sex offender.
I don't think that... Well, I imagine he may have said that.
But he didn't know, did he?
There was no risk of sending children back to school. And then he said there was a risk.
He said, yes, teachers will be safe. And then a few moments later, he said, no, I can't guarantee it, that no teacher will be infected. What did people do with their newfound freedom this week?
They went to the Lake District and to the Peak District and to wander around in Wales and Cornwall.
They flocked to various beauty spots throughout the country, including Dorset's famous beach at Durdle Door. Let's hope they disinfected the Durdle Door handle.
Some people are so brilliantly... There's a bloke I heard on a radio phone in, and he said, I'm 83, and he said, I'm going down the market stall same as normal, because look at me, there's nothing wrong with me. And I thought, well, yeah, but there's something about the nature of disease you've not quite grasped, that even with really bad diseases, you are generally quite fine up until the moment you get the disease. There are no diseases, I mean, I have to ask Hannah for confirmation of this. As far as I know, there are no diseases so bad they make you ill before you get the disease, you stupid idiot.
I can confirm that's science fact, by the way. That's definitely science fact.
Brilliant. That's one fact we can lock in. Following the government's confused message about whether to stay home or go out, one man tries to do both.
Moving house.
Here's Eric Pickles. What has he just been given?
His own postal code.
He's been given a hat that looks strangely like an owl.
Yes, look at the owl's eye, yes.
That could be a Russian owl. He's been given a knighthood.
That's right.
He's now Sir Eric.
That's right.
Arise, Sir Eric.
Which has led to a lot of cheap jibes.
Has it? You're going to repeat some?
Obviously. About how he was always destined for big things. Or how he could now be called Circumference. Finally, what is Tony Blair going to step down from?
Oh, being the peace envoy for the Middle East.
As his job is now nearly over.
The region is blossoming. Everybody's happy.
How did Guardian fashion journalist Jess Cartner-Morley put the final nail in the avocado's coffin? She said, avocado is too reminiscent of the 70s bathroom suite. The Pantone charts of today are all moody leaden greys, chalky whites, blues, every other shade.
You mocked her speaking style.
Oh, I did, yes. But I also cut a word that I can't pronounce. Every other shade of green has had its day in the Fashion Week sun. Apple, emerald, jade, even school uniform bottle. There you go. Do you know how the avocado gets its name?
Yes. It's a cross between two plants called an avo and a cardo.
It's an old Aztec word, aguacate, which means testicle. It does. Shall we have a quick game of avocado or testicle?
No! No! Sir, there may be certain medical complaints that would confuse the issue.
And Rachel, take a look at this.
That's women bishops.
Yes, it's welcome to Have I Got Pews for You. We must have had that joke before, Ian.
No, there's a reason for that.
No. There's the outgoing Robert Runcie hugging what could be a female member of the laity, or the lady.
I think it's Rowan Williams, actually.
Oh, it was Rowan Williams, wasn't
Yes.
it? Did I say Runcie? God,
Yeah, he's
I am
dead,
out
but
of date,
in
aren't
a
I?
real sense, he's still with us. Essentially, as I understood it, there was an overwhelming majority in favour of women bishops, which means you can't have them.
I think everyone was a bit startled, shaken and stirred. Shaken and stirred by this vote, because in this country...
It doesn't help by repeating it slow and loud.
I thought we bonded then, though. Me and...
We have bonded. I was thinking of covering the Israel-Gaza crisis.
No, we're on the women bishops.
Yeah, well, I reckon the women bishop story would keep it light. Just shows you how wrong I can be, doesn't it?
I think that in this country we expect people, on the whole, especially beardy Christians, who wear sandals and who say things like, God bless.
I think it's called Jesus. It's called Jesus in the Bible.
We expect them.
Jesus in the Bible.
I know you're a Christian, Ian. What would you have voted
Well,
for women
now,
bishops?
really, in this country, you can't go around throwing that sort of accusation at people.
You are openly
I'm a
Christian.
member of the Church of England, which is very, very different.
Is it? Well, it is now.
There are three houses. There's the bishops, and they voted for it, and the priests, and they voted for it, and the laity, they didn't. It's a very, very peculiar decision. But as it happens, everyone's very, very sad and very, very disappointed. They're going to do what the C of E does, is they say, we're going to take our time, we're going to pray for each other, we're going to bitch about each other really badly in private, and then in another 100 years, we'll have another vote.
Yes, but
as soon as that?
Yes. No, it's all go.
Reforms just like that amongst religious
Well,
groups,
I'm never
isn't
going to
it?
make it, am I, as a women bishop?
Do you know, I think you're not.
I tell you what, though, this has opened the door for women imams. There's a whole gap in the market
Well, what
there.
I think is that the women in the church...
They haven't quite got round to that yet.
But it was stymied by the laity, whatever that means.
Whatever it means, it happened.
Who are the laity?
They don't know, they specialise in stymieing.
Next, Basil Brush brought out of semi-retirement for what?
Mating. Boxing Day hunt.
Sneaking out the back of the bush going, bom, bom. The big puppet off with spoon. Who is it? Sue, the other one.
Yeah. Sue, Sooty and...
Yeah.
Sweep.
Sooty, Sweep, Sue, all of them.
Yeah.
It's for Prince William's 5th birthday. This is from an article in The Puppet Master about the history of Basil Brush. Basil Brush has since fallen on hard times. I saw him only the other day, going through my bins.
So time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication the Herefordshire Beekeepers Association's buzzword. Worth buying for the page 3 honey. And we start with, unlike man, bees do not what?
Unlike men, bees do not
walk around the house feeling the radiators, leaving the loo seat up, turning the thermostat down, telling you how to drive your car, mansplaining. Bees don't do any of that. Am I close?
No, because it's too long for that. Well, you like judging distances, love. You see the gap there?
Unlike man, bees do not have a sense of their own mortality. I must apologise to any bees watching. That must have come as a nasty shock. Next, to really impress the family this Christmas, why not what?
Why not roast a bee?
Yeah. Introduce them to your secret family from Hull.
Drop dead.
What sort of funeral directors sort of advertising campaign for Christmas? Yeah. We call it Boxing Day in our trade. In they go.
Berlusconi what in old people's home?
Runs brothel. He belongs in old people's home.
Berlusconi tasered in old people's home.
Told to work.
Told to work, yeah, it's community service.
Silvio Berlusconi has been sentenced to do a year's community service in an old person's home. The 77-year-old will learn to cope with a regime of bed baths, help with dressing and wiping up drool. And once he's been got ready, he'll do the same for the residents. Next, scientists discover why what?
DFS leather sofas are never full price.
Scientists discover why, but can't find how, when, or who.
It is why limoncello never tastes the same at home.
The Bernie Ecclestone turning up for his case.
Yes, it was great. He was rather baffled by the concept of revolving doors. Here he goes.
There he is, and he goes...
Here he goes, like, no, so far, so good, you see. There we are, now. Now, just come walk out. No.